Chapter 1422. Chun Dao slowed down his footsteps and said to the person beside him, "You have to be careful when picking herbs here. Some herbs cannot be touched." I'll remember that." Fengjiu nodded and replied. Then they heard a pill master in front of them exclaim, "Look, it's the ghost grass. Quick, grab it." Fengjiu was stunned. Ghost grass? She looked in front of her and saw that in the darkness of the night, where the light of the fire shone, there was a stalk of white veil-like herb among the weeds, swaying in the night wind. It's really the ghost grass," she exclaimed in surprise. She didn't think that there would be ghost grass here. The ghost grass was a fourth-level spiritual herb and could be used in many types of pill recipes. However, no matter if it was in the market or anywhere else, the ghost grass was extremely rare and precious. This was because the ghost grass could run away. Even if it appeared there, you might not be able to pick it. There's another one there," another person exclaimed. Then Chun Dao said, "What's there to be surprised about? The ghost grass is a male and female spiritual herb. If one of them appears, the other one will be nearby. Quick, surround them and don't let them run away." Before he could finish his sentence, he saw the few pill masters in front of him pouncing towards the two stalks of ghost grass. With so many people pouncing on them, the two stalks of ghost grass were frightened and fled into the darkness of the night. Although Fengjiu had seen it before, this was the first time she saw spiritual herbs running away in front of her. She couldn't help but find it interesting, especially when she saw that the few people in front of her didn't manage to catch the ghost grass and instead got themselves covered in mud. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly. She tried her best not to laugh out loud. It's running away. Quick, chase it," one of the pill masters said and ran towards the front. The few people behind him hurriedly followed. "I found it first. It's mine. It belongs to whoever picks it." Seeing the few people in front scrambling to escape, Chun Dao shouted from behind, "Don't run too far. If you can't catch it, then forget it. There will definitely be more once we get inside." However, they were all busy catching the two ghost grass, so how could they pay attention to his words? Fengjiu, Chun Dao, and Luo Heng stared blankly at the people who had disappeared in the blink of an eye. They felt a gust of wind blow, and their bodies involuntarily shrank. If the team gets separated, what will happen? Fengjiu hesitated for a moment, but still asked. Based on the current situation, if those people kept chasing after the ghost grass, wouldn't they get separated? In here, if you get separated, you will be left alone. Alchemists who are left alone do not have the ability to protect themselves. Moreover, if they encounter other people who are picking spirit herbs, they will definitely not be able to protect their spirit herbs. Hearing this, she looked at Chun Dao, who was explaining, and saw him shake his head helplessly. "Actually, if I could move on my own, I think it would be better not to go with them. Even if they were in danger, they might not help me. And look, Sai, they only cause me trouble. Senior Brother Chun will probably look for them, right?" Luo Heng, who was standing at the side, grinned and looked at Chun Dao, saying, "Senior Brother Chun, although you are sometimes a little careless, your sense of responsibility is still quite strong. Since you are the team leader, I believe that you will find your team members and prevent them from meeting other teams and getting their spirit herbs taken away or being beaten up." "All right, you little brat, stop flattering me." Chapter 1423. Hence, the three of them quickly chased after it. Faintly, they could hear the low cries of others in the night. "Quick, over there, catch it." Can't you see where you're going? It's crashing into me. It's over there, don't let it escape. Come back if you can't get it. It's too dangerous to chase after the ghost grass." Chun Dao heard the words coming from the front and shouted loudly. However, since they finally saw the ghost grass, they definitely wouldn't let it go so easily. Hence, even though Chun Dao was shouting, the pill masters in front didn't think of stopping. Suddenly, there was a loud bang in front of them, followed by continuous cries of alarm. What's that? Something's pulling my leg. Not good, run." Chaotic sounds came. Chun Dao and the other two looked at each other and quickly ran forward. Faintly, they heard rustling and panicked voices. Then they saw 2 or 3 pill masters running back. Senior brother Chun, it's not good. Something happened. A man rushed forward and said anxiously. Under the light of the torch, one could see that his face was pale and flustered. The few of them have been caught by a ghost. Hearing this, Feng Jiu was stunned for a moment. Then, a strange look flashed across his face. Ghost? What kind of nonsense is this? The ghost grass was an elixir that would steal and run everywhere. It had spirituality. Hence, there was a rumor that the ghost grass liked eerie ghost lands. However, this was just a rumor. It was just a rumor released by some auctions outside in order to raise the price of nethergrass. He didn't expect that this dignified sect alchemist would actually believe it. It was really funny. Chen Dao frowned. What nonsense are you talking about? We're serious. Something suddenly reached out from the grass and grabbed our legs. We ran away quickly, but the few of them were dragged away by their legs. That cold feeling was like a ghost hand. It's too scary. The other person also said, and couldn't help but shudder. Feng Jiu's mouth twitched. Ghost hand? He even touched it before? He even knew that Icy Cold's ghost hand was similar? She didn't know that these alchemists were so cowardly. In any case, they were all golden core cultivators. Could it be that they had become stupid from refining pills? You don't even know how to use your own cultivation? All right, let's not talk about it for now. Let's go and take a look, Chen Dao said as he rushed forward. Feng Jiu, who was following behind, caught a glimpse of the pale faces of the few alchemists who had run back and were still retreating. Seeing this, she pursed her lips and ignored them as she followed Chen Dao and Luo Hong in that direction. However, when they arrived at that place, they saw that the surroundings were completely silent. Not a single sound could be heard. There's nothing. As Luo Hong spoke, he looked around in surprise. Other than a few of them, there was no one else. Feng Jiu squatted down to check for a while, then said, "The weeds here have traces of being crushed, and the direction is in this direction. It should have been dragged there by something." She reached out and pointed to one side, then walked slowly in that direction while paying attention to the movements under her feet. Not long after, when she saw 2 stalks of ghost grass that came out of nowhere, she raised her eyebrows. It's ghost grass. Chapter 1424. This time, even though the few alchemists behind him wanted the phantom grass very much, they did not dare to act rashly. In any case, they had the speed of a gold core cultivator, but even with such speed, they still couldn't catch the ghost grass, and even lost a few people. At the moment, they didn't know whether those people were alive or dead. Their hearts were in a mess, and they had long lost their initial excitement. You're not picking it? They're right there. Feng Jiu turned around and smiled at the few alchemists. We can't pick it. The few of them sighed. They finally knew why the phantom grass was so rare in the sect, but the phantom grass in the auction house outside was so expensive. They had almost been toyed to death with just 2 stalks of grass. I'm also more self-aware. If I know that I can't pick it, I'm too lazy to waste my energy. Luo Hong said as he looked in the direction Feng Jiu pointed and asked, Feng Jiu, I didn't know that you knew how to track people. But that's right. Didn't you and I work together to catch that psychopathic murderer last time? Speaking of this, he looked back at the others with a little pride and said, Don't worry, I'm here. I'll protect you all. I'll also find a way to save those senior and junior brothers. Ah! Before he finished speaking, he cried out in alarm and lost his balance. With a bang, he fell to the ground and was quickly dragged into the forest by something. He was so shocked that his face changed, and he cried for help. Ah! Save me, a ghost is grabbing my feet. The few alchemists behind him saw this and retreated in horror. They watched as the torch in Luo Heng's hand was extinguished because of his fall. They watched as he was dragged into the forest by something in the night. Other than his cry of alarm, there was also the rustling sound of his body rubbing against the ground. No, I'm not going. It's not safe inside. One of the alchemists said as he retreated until he came to a tree. He leaned against the tree and said to them, I'll wait for you here. The others saw this and hesitated. Just as they were thinking about whether to continue following, they heard Chun Dao's voice in front of them. Then you could just wait there. If you get dragged away or eaten by some beast, don't come looking for us. In addition, we will only continue to move forward. We don't have the time to turn back." Seeing that Chun Dao didn't even turn his head as he said these words, the few hesitant alchemists could only grit their teeth and follow. Although they were alchemists and had the strength of the gold core stage, their gold core stage cultivation was mainly based on the cultivation of spiritual power and aura. Their combat strength could be said to be the worst. It was also because of their lack of combat strength that they did not have the confidence to walk in here and could not be calm and collected. Luo Heng's voice disappeared after a while, as if he had fainted. Feng Jiu and Chun Dao couldn't help but look at each other. As they walked forward, Chun Dao pulled Feng Jiu back. "Follow behind me." As he spoke, he walked past Feng Jiu and continued forward. He didn't think much of it. He just thought that Feng Jiu was just a young man and only had the cultivation of the foundation establishment stage. With such strength, it was not suitable for him to walk in front. Moreover, he was considered an elder and couldn't let a junior take the risk. Chapter 14:25. What was that thing that had reached out and dragged them away? Although it was silent, it couldn't have been a ghost. The bell at her waist didn't ring, so one could imagine that this place was very clean. The two of them walked in front, while the others behind them gritted their teeth and followed. When they heard a faint rustling sound, Feng Jiu focused her eyes and used the light of the fire to see an ink-black vine as thick as an arm shuttling through the grass towards them. She stopped and raised her hand, indicating for the others to stop and not move, then pulled Chun Dao back. "What's wrong?" Chun Dao stopped and turned to look at Feng Jiu. "Senior brother Chun, look." Feng Jiu gestured and pointed at the vine heading their way. Chun Dao looked in the direction Feng Jiu was pointing. His face stiffened and he drew his sword. "It's a burrowing dragon." As soon as he spoke, the thing that Feng Jiu had mistaken for a vine suddenly stopped and its arm-thick body rose up. Strangely, a pair of strange eyes appeared on the ink-black head of the burrowing dragon. "Ah, it's not a vine," Feng Jiu exclaimed in shock. Only when she saw the thing's true appearance did she realize that it was a burrowing dragon. Whoosh! As she spoke, Chun Dao swung the sword in his hand, and a sharp beam of sword chi shot out towards the burrowing dragon. The burrowing dragon dodged the sword chi, but it was still struck by the sharp energy sword chi. However, it wasn't injured at all. Not even a scratch could be seen on its skin, let alone cut it in half. Whoosh! Clang! Clang! Another sword chi shot out. This time, it hit the burrowing dragon head-on. The sound of metal clashing rang out, and sparks shot out from the burrowing dragon's body. In the face of Chun Dao's sharp sword chi, the burrowing dragon wasn't afraid at all. It didn't retreat, and instead leaped towards them, as if it wanted to take another person away. "A little worm dares to be impudent in front of me? Watch how I cut you into pieces, and make sure you don't even have a corpse left." Chun Dao shouted and attacked again. For a moment, the sound of metal clanging could be heard, and the sharp sound of wind whistled through the air. Feng Jiu saw that Chun Dao couldn't take down the burrowing dragon and couldn't help but sigh in her heart. With Chun Dao's nascent soul strength, he could easily deal with the burrowing dragon. However, even after slashing for a while, he still couldn't figure out that this burrowing dragon was a metal attribute spirit beast. When dealing with metal attribute spirit beasts, unless one had a truly famous saber or a good sword, one wouldn't be able to cut a burrowing dragon even after slashing for 8 to 10 times. "Senior brother Chun, this insect seems to be of the metal attribute. Why don't you try using fire?" she suggested as she walked to the side. She wanted to see if Luo Heng and the others had been caught by the burrowing dragon. Hearing this, Chun Dao was stunned for a moment. After he reacted, he channeled his spirit power into the sword in his hand. Seeing the long sword in his hand burst into flames and roaring like a fire snake, he couldn't help but laugh. "If I can't cut down this little worm, I'll go back to the countryside and farm. Come, eat your Grandpa Chen's sword." Chapter 14:26. Xiao, who? Feng Jiu, who was walking to the side, saw that the sword was raised high and slashed down fiercely. With a swish, the drilling dragon was cut in two. With a bang, the filth in the drilling dragon's body sprayed out and splashed on the ground, causing the entire air to emit a foul smell. When the several alchemists saw this, they all breathed a sigh of relief. It's good that it's dead. It's good that it's dead. However, as soon as the smell of the burrowing dragon spread out, rustling sounds came from the night. In the blink of an eye, a dozen or so burrowing dragons as thick as arms jumped out in front of them. Some of them curled their tails and attacked at their feet. So many. The several alchemists quickly jumped up and hid in the trees while others took out medicines and sprinkled them in front of them to prevent the earth-drilling dragons from approaching. Even Chen Dao was stunned when he saw this. However, knowing that this thing was afraid of fire, it wasn't difficult to deal with it. However, when he saw those pill masters actually climbing up the trees to hide like monkeys, he was so angry that he blew his beard and glared at them, cursing loudly. Aren't you all ashamed? You're already so old, yet you're still climbing up the trees like monkeys to hide? Are you planning to leave these little insects to me to deal with? Is there anyone as unrighteous and courageous as you? Aren't you all ashamed? When they heard this, their faces turned red and they felt ashamed, but they didn't go down and instead said, Senior Brother Chun, you're the captain, so you naturally have to shoulder the responsibility of protecting us, right? Do you think you're the captain for nothing? Besides, our combat strength isn't good, but Senior Brother Chun is different. Those earth-drilling dragons are just small insects in your eyes, but in our eyes, they're big guys. You can kill them with a single slash of your sword, but if we go down, we might be swallowed at any time. Hearing this, Chen Dao felt both funny and angry. What were these people talking about? If they were timid, then they had a reason to be timid. What a disgrace to men. Just as he was thinking, he saw an earth-drilling dragon that wasn't so dark rushing towards him. He snorted and slashed down with the sword in his hand. When the earth-drilling dragon was cut in two, he mischievously picked it up with his sword and slapped it with the blade, directly slapping the two parts of the earth-drilling dragon towards the several people in the tree. The few of them were caught off guard when they felt an object flying towards them. With a bang, it landed on their chests. When they felt the cold touch on their chests, they looked down and couldn't help but scream out loud. After that, Chen Dao would throw the burrowing dragons at them after killing them. Worst of all, he would pick up a smaller burrowing dragon and throw it at the people in the tree. Chen. No one's like you. You are too outrageous. Some people cried out in alarm, and some vomited. For a moment, the few people in the tree were in a mess. In the end, they couldn't take it anymore and could only come down from the tree. However, their bodies were covered in the juice of the earth-drilling dragons, and it was incomparably disgusting. Senior Brother Chun, they're here. Feng Jiu's voice came from the front. After Chen Dao dealt with the earth-drilling dragons, he leaped to Feng Jiu's side and saw Luo Heng and the others lying unconscious in the mud pit. Although they weren't moving from their breathing, they seemed to be fine. Chapter 14:27. As soon as he finished speaking, he stepped forward to drag them out. Unexpectedly, as soon as he walked in, his expression changed. He immediately stopped Feng Jiu, who was about to step into the mud pit. Don't come in. Feng Jiu was startled and stopped. Seeing him standing there with a slightly changed expression, she asked, What's wrong? As soon as she finished speaking, she saw that his figure seemed to sink a little in the mud pit. She was slightly surprised. This is the flowing mud ground. That's right. It's a flowing mud ground. You can't come in. He maintained his figure standing, and even his breathing became lighter as he spoke. Now she finally knew why everyone was covered in mud. Some of them only had their heads sticking out. It turned out that this unassuming mud pit was actually the flowing mud ground. The flowing mud ground, as its name suggested, was a muddy ground. If someone entered by mistake, they would be trapped. If they struggled, they would sink even faster. Just like now, he was standing, but due to gravity, he had sunk halfway to his waist. He couldn't see the bottom of the mud beneath his feet, and the mud on his body was sucking him in like a magnet. Flowing mud ground? Quick, find some branches and use them to pull Chen Dao out. The few people who rushed overshouted and hurriedly found branches to pull him out. However, at this moment, Fengjiu's hand moved. A thick rope flew out and wrapped around Chen Dao's hand. In the next moment, he pulled hard and pulled him out. Pop! He was pulled out of the mud with a popping sound. He was pulled out of the mud like a radish. Phew, I was so scared that I didn't even dare to breathe. I was too careless. As Chen Dao spoke, he saw the rope in his hand loosen. His eyes flashed. He stroked his mustache and looked at Fengjiu with a grin. Kid, you're quite strong. You have some hidden strength. Fengjiu looked at him, smoothing his mustache with his muddy hand. Instantly, two muddy mustaches formed. He couldn't help but laugh. Senior brother Chun, you're so handsome and slender that it wasn't hard for me to pull you out. Ha ha. The words that come out of your mouth really make people happy. Good, good, good. Senior brother will definitely reward you later. He lowered his head and looked at his half-body that was covered in mud. He sighed, why do I feel like a pig in mud with my whole body covered in mud? Hearing this, Fengjiu narrowed her eyes and smiled. Looking at the unconscious people in the mud, she smiled and said, Senior brother Chun, if you don't pull them up, they'll sink down. Because the mud was stirred up, the people in the mud began to sink. Chen Dao turned around and looked. In the next moment, he leaped into the air and pulled them out of the mud. Fengjiu, who was at the back, saw this and leaped out to pull two people out. Not long after, the two of them rescued the few people inside, but they were all unconscious. Burrowing dragons have stingers on their tails. Those stingers have medicinal properties that can make people unconscious. It's different from ordinary knockout drugs. Our drugs probably won't be able to cure them. Fengjiu, go and pick the earth dragon gallbladders that were cut in two. After Chen Dao checked the few people, he let Fengjiu go and pick the earth dragon gallbladders. Okay, Fengjiu responded. She walked back and found a dark green egg-sized earth dragon gallbladders in the abdomen of the burrowing dragons that were cut in two. Chapter 1428. Fengjiu couldn't help but grin as he watched the dark green earth dragon's gallbladder being poured down his throat. This earth dragon's gallbladder was also a type of medicine. However, an unprocessed earth dragon's gallbladder was bitter and fishy. It tasted really bad. However, it was indeed miraculous. Not long after it was poured down, the first person who was forced to drink it had already coughed and woke up. Cough, cough. Luo Hung woke up from choking. He smacked his lips and tasted the bitter and fishy taste in his mouth. When he saw what Chen Dao was doing from the corner of his eye, he immediately lay on the ground and vomited. Ugh, hey, Senior Brother Luo, you're eating Earth Dragon's gallbladder. It's not poisonous. It just doesn't taste good. Fengjiu grinned at the side. He watched Luo Hung raise his head and glare at him before lying on the ground and vomiting again. The few alchemists at the side watched, especially when their gazes stopped on Fengjiu for a while. They felt a little ashamed and curious about this little errand boy. Along the way, this little odd-job worker was even more adapted to everything here than they were. Compared to this little odd-job worker, they were like young masters who had never experienced hardships and were out of tune with this forest. However, this errand boy was different. He was clearly only at the foundation establishment stage, but he was bold and careful. Moreover, when they retreated, he stepped forward. Thinking of this scene, they couldn't help but treat him differently. Why am I covered in mud? Luo Hung looked at Fengjiu and asked. I clearly remember being dragged away by something cold, and then I lost consciousness. It was the earth-drilling dragon that dragged you into the muddy ground. Fengjiu pointed at the muddy ground not far away and smiled. Senior Brother Chun and I rescued you. Hearing this, they looked at each other, then stood up and cupped their hands to thank Chen Dao. Thank you, Senior Brother Chun. Thank you, Junior Brother Chun. However, they all ignored Fengjiu. In their eyes, he was just an odd-job worker. There was no need for them to thank him. He was not worthy of their thanks. Fengjiu saw that they didn't even thank her and directly ignored her. She just smiled and didn't say anything. Thanks, Fengjiu. I'll treat you to a drink when we get back. Luo Hung stepped forward and reached out his hand to pat Fengjiu's shoulder. Unexpectedly, he patted empty air. Senior Brother Luo, I'm still clean. Fengjiu took 3 steps back and looked at him with a smile. Luo Hung froze for a moment, then laughed. Okay. I know my hands are dirty. I won't touch you. As he spoke, he looked around and said, "We have to find a place to wash up and change our clothes. It's so uncomfortable to be covered in mud. There's the sound of flowing water in front. Follow me," Chen Dao said and led them forward. Fengjiu followed behind unhurriedly. She had the urge to sneak away, but she also knew that if she disappeared, no one else would look for her, but Chen Dao would. But if she directly told him that she wanted to act on her own, what excuse could she use? Even if she said it, he probably wouldn't agree. After all, in his eyes, she was only a cultivator of the foundation establishment stage. So troublesome. She sighed helplessly. She could only keep walking with them, hoping that they would go straight into the depths. Perhaps there would be a chance to encounter her mother. Chapter 1429. The spring water is rather cold in the middle of the night. I'll wash my face to refresh myself, Fengjiu said as he arrived at the mouth of the spring. 2 torches were inserted into the ground to illuminate the surroundings. The men had already begun to take off their muddy outer clothes. Just as they were about to take off their pants, they couldn't help but pause as if they had just remembered something. They also seemed to have sensed that someone was looking at them, so they raised their heads to look. "Take it off. Why aren't you taking it off? We're watching." 2 female alchemists stood at the side and stared at them. Their clothes were stained with mud and water and clung tightly to their bodies, outlining their exquisite and graceful figures. Fengjiu couldn't help but smile when he heard this. He glanced at the 2 women and then retreated to sit under a tree not far away. "You 2 go wash up first. Hurry, don't take too long," Chen Dao said as he gestured for the 2 women to go wash up by the spring. He then said to the male alchemists, "Men, retreat 10 meters away and turn your backs." Seeing this, the alchemists could only endure the discomfort of their clothes sticking to their bodies and retreat 10 meters away to wait. Between men and women, the men definitely had to give way to the women. This was a form of courtesy and also a form of cultivation. Seeing this, the 2 women looked at each other. One of them guarded while the other changed first. Because they were in the forest and there were men 10 meters away, they didn't dare to wash for too long. After simply washing off the mud on their bodies and changing out of their dirty clothes, they quickly put on clean clothes. "It's done," the 2 women said as they went to the side and used their spiritual energy to dry their hair. Under the night sky, the 2 women's figures were voluptuous and their faces were alluring. They stood under the tree and gently stroked their hair under the moonlight, causing the men to stare at them in a daze. Io, one of them didn't pay attention to his feet and tripped on a rock. He pathetically fell to the ground, causing the men beside him to regain their senses and stabilize their minds. The man who fell smiled embarrassedly at the 2 women and quickly stood up to go to the spring. Fengjiu glanced at those people with a strange expression and then looked away. About an hour later, everyone finished washing their clothes. Fengjiu, who was waiting under the tree, had already taken a nap. She only woke up when she heard Chen Dao's voice. After changing into clean clothes, Chen Dao walked over and saw Fengjiu sleeping there. Even his head was tilted to one side. He couldn't help but shake his head and laugh. This kid, he fell asleep just like that. "Senior brother Chun, should we continue or rest here for the night?" a man asked. In fact, he wanted to stay and rest for the night. After all, he had made enough trouble here. "Then let's rest. We'll leave at dawn," Chen Dao said as he took out a robe and wanted to put it on Fengjiu. Unexpectedly, when he approached, Fengjiu woke up with the robe in his hand. The moment he opened his eyes, the vigilance and coldness in his eyes shot out. Chen Dao couldn't help but be startled, as if he was frightened. "Senior brother Chun, what's wrong?" Fengjiu, who woke up, asked. Seeing Chen Dao take a step back with the robe in his hand, he couldn't help but be startled and didn't react. Chapter 1430. Only the heavens knew that he was caught off guard by Fengjiu's sudden opening of her eyes. His heart was beating rapidly, and if he hadn't held back his scream, he would have lost his composure in front of everyone. Cough. He coughed lightly with one hand clenched into a fist and thought to himself, if that's really the case, it'll really damage my image. However, the sharpness and coldness in this brat's eyes when he opened his eyes was astonishing. That vigilance was really strong, and it didn't seem like something a foundation establishment cultivator would have. No need, no need. I only took a short nap, and I have clothes too. She smiled and squinted her eyes. She looked at everyone and asked, are we resting here tonight? Then let's rest first. As he spoke, he walked forward and sat down beside Fengjiu. However, just as he sat down, Fengjiu jumped up. What's wrong? Chen Dao was startled as he looked at Fengjiu, who suddenly stood up. Senior brother Chun, look, it's the ghost grass. She pointed at the 2 stalks of ghost grass that appeared again, and her eyes shone brightly. Chen Dao glanced at it, and indeed, the ghost grass appeared again. However, he wasn't interested and said, this thing is too difficult to catch and can't be picked. It's better to save some energy and rest. The other alchemists also noticed it, and when they thought of the loss they suffered because of the ghost grass, they were all tempted, but they didn't make a move. They knew their limits, and they couldn't pick these 2 stalks of ghost grass. If they didn't do it well, even they would be implicated, so forget it. Senior brother, you don't want to either? Fengjiu squinted her eyes and asked those people with a smile. Hearing this, Chen Dao glanced at her and revealed a smile. From what you're saying, could it be that you want to go and pick it? If you have the ability to pick it, I can help you refine any kind of pill you need as long as you gather the ingredients. Those alchemists sneered and glanced at Fengjiu with contempt. You can catch the ghost grass that we can't even pick. You're overestimating yourself. Hee, since you don't want it, then I'll go catch it. She ignored their disdain and walked towards the 2 ghost grass not far away with a grin on her face. Seeing this, everyone who was resting on the spot no longer felt sleepy. Each and every one of them stared at that green figure, wanting to see how this brat would make a fool of himself. Who would have thought that he would take out a fishing net from his chinquin bag? Everyone was stunned for a moment and had strange expressions on their faces. They watched as he walked forward with light steps and stared at the 2 stalks of ghost grass that were separated by a distance. Then, he prepared to make his move. His net covered one of the stalks. Ah! Someone exclaimed and stood up. His eyes widened as he stared ahead with an excited expression. We caught him. Yes, he did. Fengjiu looked at the ghost grass in the net and laughed. She was familiar with the growth characteristics of the ghost grass, so she took out a thin string and tied it to one of the ghost grass before letting it go. The other stalk moved forward lightly and maintained a close distance. In the next moment, Fengjiu used the net again and easily caught the other stalk, directly putting the 2 stalks of ghost grass into the space. Chapter 14:31. When Chen Dao saw this, he was very surprised. He felt that Fengjiu's skills were very thought-provoking. They couldn't catch the ghost grass, but he only used a net to catch it. That kind of ease was really a slap in the face. Look at him, look, he's not even 20 years old yet. And he's only an odd-job worker, not even an alchemist. Yet he easily did what you couldn't do. Tell me, don't you feel ashamed? Hearing Chen Dao's words, Fengjiu's mouth twitched. She put away the net and walked back, only to see an alchemist in front of her. I'll give you pills in exchange for the 2 ghost grass. Looking at the person in front of her, Fengjiu smiled and shook her head. I won't exchange. She still planned to plant the 2 ghost grass in her space. The ghost grass was a necessary ingredient for many kinds of pills. Adding it to different prescriptions would have different effects. She didn't want to give up the 2 ghost grass. Before the alchemist finished speaking, he was pushed away by Chen Dao. He staggered back a few steps before stabilizing himself. Seeing it was Chen Dao, he couldn't help but angrily shout, Chen Dao, what are you doing? Chen Dao crossed his arms and looked at him. I'm the one who wants to say what you want to do. Don't you feel ashamed? Do you think he has to exchange the herbs he picked with you? If you keep pestering him to exchange for the ghost grass, do you believe that I'll kick you back into the mud? Choked by these words, the alchemist could only glare at Fengjiu. Pursing his lips, he turned around and sat down under the tree. However, The arrogant alchemist couldn't swallow this anger. Chen Dao glanced at the alchemist, snorted, and said to Feng Jiu, "Keep your things well. If they dare to cause trouble for you, come find me. You're under my protection. If they dare to have ideas about you, then they're having ideas about me." Hearing this, Feng Jiu grinned. "Thank you, Senior Chun. All right. Hurry up and rest. We have to continue our journey at dawn." He waved his hand and found a place to sit down and rest. This time, Feng Jiu leaped onto the tree and fell asleep. She leaned against the tree and looked down at the people below. The corners of her lips curled up. Just as she was about to close her eyes, she saw Luo Hung also leaping up and sitting on the tree not far away. "Hey, Feng Jiu, why do you have a net with you? Why don't you take it out?" Feng Jiu glanced at him and said with a smile, "In the past, it was used to catch fish. Normally, I would use it to catch wild animals. This time, I can use it to catch spiritual herbs. How about selling it to me? I don't want a ghost grass. I want a net. I'll exchange it with pills. No, I still need to use it." She closed her eyes and ignored him. "Sigh, I'm going to sleep. Senior brother Luo, it's impossible to sell it to you, but I can lend it to you. As for this, we'll talk about it when I wake up tomorrow." Hearing this, Luo Hung smiled. All right then. He would use it even if she borrowed it. With that net, there was no need to worry about not being able to catch the ghost grass. The next morning, everyone woke up to the chirping of birds and insects. Looking at the golden rays of the sun shining on the forest, the morning air was incomparably fresh. The tranquil and beautiful feeling made their mood suddenly brighten. Chapter 1432. The group walked into the forest. As they entered the inner area, they saw all kinds of spiritual herbs growing everywhere. Some grew in the weeds, some grew in the open, and some grew in the cracks of rocks. Feng Jiu happily gathered the spiritual herbs in the back. She found that the deeper they went, the higher the quality of the spiritual herbs. Aside from her, the others also began to gather spiritual herbs that were useful to them. The 10 of them spread out, so there was no conflict. A few days later, Chun Dao and the others were resting in the forest. Feng Jiu was gathering spiritual herbs in the surroundings. When she put a stalk of submerged ground grass into her universe pouch, she saw a pair of boots appear in front of her. Faintly, she saw a gorgeous skirt. She was startled and raised her head to look. When she saw the person in front of her, a smile appeared on her face. Senior Marshall's sister. Wasn't the person in front of her one of the 2 women? Did she need something from her? Junior Marshall brother phone. As soon as the delicate voice came out, a pair of white and slender fingers were already on Feng Jiu's shoulder. They gently rubbed back and forth. A pair of beautiful eyes stared at Feng Jiu with an inexplicable meaning. Feng Jiu's body stiffened. She stood there as if she didn't know what to do. She awkwardly smiled and said, "Senior Marshall's sister, what are you doing?" Although this woman looked to be in her 20s, her strength was definitely higher than that. She actually had the nerve to make a move on a young grass like her. She was too ruthless. Junior Marshall brother Feng, you've gathered so many herbs, yet you don't know how to refine them. How about I take a loss and refine them for you? Hee, there's no need. Senior Marshall brother Chun said he would refine them for me. When the woman's hand lightly touched her chest, she foolishly smiled and quickly retreated a few steps. Seeing the retreating youth, the woman covered her mouth and smiled. Just as she was about to step forward again, she saw him suddenly call out in surprise behind her, "Senior Marshall brother Chun." Hearing those words, her heart jumped. Thinking it was Chun Dao, she quickly turned around. Who knew that there wasn't even a shadow behind her? When she turned around again, the youth had already disappeared. Little brat. She snorted and flicked her finger. Then, she turned around and walked back. Seeing Feng Jiu rushing over, Chun Dao, who was chatting with Luo Hung, asked, "Did you call me just now? I think I heard your voice." "Oh yes, I did." Feng Jiu came to their side and said with a smile, "I want to ask if we're going to continue walking inside." "Oh, this." Chun Dao stroked his mustache and said, "Actually, the higher-ups have instructed that we can only walk around the outer and inner regions. As for the deeper regions, He hesitated and said, although there are extremely precious spirit herbs in the deeper regions, there are also some ferocious spirit herbs and guardian beasts. The sect actually doesn't recommend us to enter the deeper regions. Fengjiu's eyes lit up as he asked, then are we going in? Her mother should be inside. Since they were already here, if they didn't go in, she wanted to go in and take a look. You want to go in? Seeing his anticipation, Chun Dao was a little surprised. You don't know how to refine pills. Even if you gather those spirit herbs, you can only sell them. What's more, I said before, there are powerful spirit beasts and fierce beasts inside. For alchemists like us who specialize in alchemy, it's not suitable to go in. Chapter 1433. I don't agree with you going in. Chun Dao said directly, you're not strong enough and it's dangerous for you to go in. Besides, we've already gathered a lot of spirit herbs, and we're looking for a place to refine pills. Senior Brother Chun, you guys go ahead and refine the pills. I'll go take a look. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. Fengjiu said. Just as he was about to say something else, he heard a loud bang. Bang. Bang, bang, bang. What's that sound? Everyone was shocked and quickly stood up to look around. The sound came from the air, and they couldn't tell where it came from. Feeling the ground shake, Fengjiu paused and said, it might be a giant bear. How do you know? Luo Heng looked at him and asked. The sound is very heavy and rhythmic. Only a giant bear can make such a sound, and the ground is shaking. This giant bear must be very big and must be at least a holy beast. Bang, 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 bang. It's coming from there. She pointed to the depths of the forest. It's getting closer and closer. It's a giant bear. She took a deep breath and leaped onto a branch. Looking down from above, she could vaguely see a giant brown bear running out from there. Its speed was frighteningly slow, but it was fast. This is a holy beast peak giant bear. Senior Brother Chun, quickly take them away from there. Fengjiu shouted and pointed to the other side. Hearing this, Chun Dao frowned and asked, what about you? You don't want to leave? Now is not the time to play. Quickly come down and leave with us. Fengjiu stood on the tree and looked down at him with a smile. Senior Brother Chun, thank you. But I have to stay. I'll stay and stall for time. I'll lead this giant bear to another direction so that you have enough time to escape. Hearing this, Chun Dao said, it's just a giant bear. I have medicine in my space. Just one pill will be enough to make the giant bear lie down. Fengjiu shook his head. It's useless to deal with such a giant brown bear. Moreover, this one is already at the peak of the holy beast level and is only a step away from becoming a holy beast. Those pills won't have any effect on it. Quickly leave. Let's go. If he wants to stay, then let him stay. Let's run for our lives. An alchemist said, and hurriedly ran in the direction Fengjiu had pointed. That's right, let's go. We're not as strong as you guys. If you don't leave, we'll leave. The rest of the people also quickly ran away, leaving only Luo Heng and the two female alchemists there. Senior Brother Chun, let's go. Luo Heng said. After glancing at Fengjiu, he also turned around and left. The two female alchemists saw Fengjiu standing on the tree and not leaving. They couldn't help but be a little surprised, but they didn't say anything and left with everyone. Be careful. Chun Dao glanced at Fengjiu and reminded him, if you encounter any danger inside, try to avoid it. The people from the south will automatically be teleported out when the time is up. If you really enter the depths and can't come out, just find a place to stay and protect your life. Hearing this, Fengjiu's eyes moved slightly and he smiled. And I know. Senior Brother Chun, quickly go. We'll meet in the sect. At that time, I'll catch a bamboo spirit rat and bring some wine to you. Chapter 1434. Seeing them leave quickly, Fengjiu retracted her gaze and looked at the brown bear. In the next moment, she leaped towards the brown bear. Come here. She stepped on the giant bear's shoulder with the tip of her foot and led the brown bear deeper into the forest. Roar! The giant bear was stepped on and roared angrily as it chased after Fengjiu. At this moment, Fengjiu noticed that there was a sleeve arrow stuck in the back of the brown bear. The sleeve arrow was black and shiny and looked like it was poisonous. However, she was puzzled. If it was poisonous, why didn't the brown bear fall down? Roar! Bang, bang, bang. The giant bear's roars were accompanied by loud bangs as it ran through the forest. When the people who had already gone to the other side saw that Fengjiu did not follow them, they could not help but have different expressions. Fengjiu, Luoheng looked at Chen Dao and asked, "Do we really not need to bring him back?" "No need, let him go. He's a strange person. He'll be fine." Chen Dao waved his hand and said to everyone, "Let's find a place to rest for a few days. If you want to pick herbs, you can go to another area. If you want to refine pills, you can also find a place to do so. What do you all think?" When everyone heard this, they looked at each other and nodded. Okay, let's do that." Thus, under Chen Dao's lead, they went to the other side. Fengjiu, who was going deeper into the forest, saw a stalk of spiritual medicine and stopped in the middle of the journey. At this moment, the brown bear that was chasing behind her pounced over with a roar. It revealed its sharp claws and fiercely clawed at her. A few wind blades slashed out with a whoosh and left deep marks on the ground. "TSK, TSK, you can't be so angry. Be careful. You'll destroy my spiritual medicine." Fengjiu put away the spiritual medicine she picked and shook her head as she spoke to the brown bear. After avoiding it, she looked at it from head to toe. "Are you male or female?" She leaped up and sat on a big tree. She rubbed her chin with one hand and stared at the brown bear below. Her pair of smart and cunning eyes rolled around as if she was thinking of something. Roar! The brown bear roared and pounced forward, but it couldn't reach the tree. It couldn't help but hug the tree and shake it violently, trying to shake the humans off. Fengjiu couldn't help but chuckle from the tree. "Your intelligence is limited. Can you shake me down like this?" She sat among the branches and chuckled. She glanced down at the belly of the giant bear and chuckled. "So it's a female bear. Tell me, how could there be such a coincidence? I have a male at home. Why don't you come back with me and be my little black's partner?" Her eyes were shining as she spoke. The more she looked at it, the more she felt that it was feasible. This brown bear was of the same breed as her family's little black, but compared to her family's little black, this one's rank was higher. It was about to step into the level of a divine beast. If she took it back, perhaps little black would be very happy to see it. She was looking for companions for her beasts and pets. Roar, roar! The female bear roared angrily and slammed into the tree. The branches of the tree shook from the impact and leaves flew everywhere. Fengjiu was still sitting on the tree, but the female bear with the arrow in her back was gradually losing strength. Roar! Chapter 1435. "Hey!" she called out from the top of the tree, broke off a branch, and threw it down. Seeing that the female bear was lying motionless, she jumped down from the tree. Just as she was about to pull out the arrow from its back, she saw the female bear suddenly raise its head and pounce on her. Roar! Who? Too treacherous. She let out a soft cry and quickly retreated, avoiding the female bear's attack. Seeing the hatred and anger in the bear's eyes, she knew that she had been angered. "I wasn't the one who hurt you, so there's no point in getting angry at me." She waved her hand and sighed. "I'll help you pull out the arrow from your back. Even if you can withstand the poison, it's not good to have the arrow stuck there, right?" Roar, roar. "All right, stop shouting. Do you really think I can't beat you?" She rolled her eyes and glanced at the female bear. In the next moment, she held 2 silver needles between her fingers and her lips curled up, revealing a sly smile. "For my Xiaohei, I'll take you in." As soon as his voice fell, 2 silver needles shot out and pierced into the female bear that was about to pounce on him. The female bear let out a long howl, and her entire body fell forward. Punk! Seeing the female bear fall down powerlessly, Fengjiu chuckled and went forward. "How is it? I didn't lie to you, right? You really are my match." She came to the female bear's back and checked the wound. Then she slightly knitted her brows. "This kind of arrow has a barb. If I pull it out like this, I'll be able to tear out a piece of flesh. TSK, TSK, I really don't know what kind of person would use an arrow, but to use this kind of barb." While saying this, she took out a dagger. Since she couldn't pull it out directly, she could only cut open the wound a bit to take out the arrow. It was a good thing that she had anesthetics. After applying anesthetics to the wound, she began. After about half an incense stick's worth of time, a sleeve arrow stained with blood was taken out. Feng Jiu applied some medicine and bandaged it. Then, she cleaned her hands and gave a pill to the brown bear. She then removed the 2 silver needles that were shot into the brown bear's body. All right. She took a few steps back and asked with a smile, "Did you eat something to detoxify the poison? Otherwise, how could it not be poisoned? Could it be that there are herbs in this forest that can cure hundreds of poisons?" She thought about it and felt that it was very likely. Roar! The brown bear growled. Although it was on guard, it lowered its growl when it saw that Feng Jiu did not make any further moves. It lay there without moving until its strength recovered. Then, it jumped and ran quickly into the forest. "Hey, you leaving just like that?" Feng Jiu stared and shouted, "I really have a Xiaohei in my house. It's the same kind as you." Roar! The only response she got was a roar. Then, even the sound of running footsteps became distant. Seeing this, she could only shake her head, get up, and rush into the forest. It was more important to find her mother. She wondered what kind of spirit herbs 3 Yangtze had asked her to pick. One had to know that the more precious a spirit herb was, the more dangerous it was. She went in alone. Did she encounter any danger? In the evening, when she smelled the smell of blood in the air, she stopped and rushed towards the place where the smell of blood was coming from. Chapter 1436. Seeing that they were from her sect, she walked out. "What happened to you? Did you encounter a ferocious beast?" The sudden voice gave the 10 of them a fright. Some of them instinctively jumped up and tore their wounds. Some of them cried out in surprise and lost their composure. When they saw the green figure that walked out, all of them widened their eyes. "Who are you?" "Oh, I'm also from Danyang's sect, but I'm from 3 Yang Peak." She froze for a moment, then grinned foolishly. One of the alchemists frowned and stared at Feng Jiu. "You're from Danyang's sect? How did a Foundation establishment cultivator come in?" "I remember now. He was brought in by Chun Dao. At that time, I saw him beside Chun Dao, so I'm sure he's a servant from 3 Yang Peak." The alchemist on the other side said. Seeing that it was someone from their sect and that he knew her, he could not help but secretly sigh in relief. It was fine as long as he was sure she would not be a threat to them. "Did you encounter a ferocious beast? Why are all of you injured?" She asked curiously. These people were golden core cultivators, and one of them was even a nascent soul cultivator. How did they end up in such a sorry state? Could it be that these alchemists only cultivated their spiritual power and not their combat strength? It was really a waste of their strength. "What does it have to do with you?" one of the alchemists said as he applied medicine to his wound. However, his hand was injured, and after applying medicine, it was not easy to bandage it. Thus, he shouted to Feng Jiu, "Come over and help me bandage my wound." When she heard those matter-of-fact words and saw that none of those people wanted to answer her question, it was obvious that they disdained to answer a part-time disciple like her. Seeing this, she smiled and said, "But this has nothing to do with me." When everyone heard this, they were stunned for a moment, then became furious. "You're just a servant. We'll let you bandage our wounds because we think highly of you." Feng Jiu waved her hand. "No need, no need. It's true that I'm a servant, but I didn't come here to bandage your wounds." She chuckled and said, "You're all alchemists. Can't you just bandage each other's wounds? Why do you need the help of a lowly handyman like me?" Hearing Feng Jiu's words, everyone's expression changed slightly. Seeing that the odd job worker really didn't come forward to help, their faces darkened. They secretly thought that this odd job worker was too impudent. When they returned to the sect, they would definitely teach him a lesson. Roar! Suddenly, a wolf howl sounded, followed by a series of wolf howls. Hearing the wolf howls, the faces of the 10 injured alchemists changed, and they stood up one after another. "It's a wolf pack! It's a wolf pack! What should we do?" Looking at their pale faces, Feng Jiu leisurely leaned against a tree and said, "It must be a pack of wolves. You have blood on you, and the smell of blood is so strong that I can smell it from a few hundred meters away. What's more, those wolves who love to eat human flesh and blood. Hearing Feng Jiu's words, someone panicked. Let's go. Quickly leave this place. Let's go outside. They would only be safe if they left this place and went to the outside. At this moment, he really regretted it. He shouldn't have thought of coming in to pick some precious spiritual herbs. Otherwise, he wouldn't have fallen into such a dangerous situation. Roar. The wolf howls were getting closer and closer, as if they were coming from the direction of a half circle. The 10 alchemists wanted to go outside, but when they heard the wolf howls, they broke out in cold sweat and stopped in their tracks. Chapter 14:37. Feng Jiu leaned against a tree and crossed her arms as she looked at the panicked crowd with a strange expression. All right, she felt that these alchemists were too afraid of death. Actually, if it was someone else with a golden core cultivation level, even if they only cultivated spiritual power and did not have any fighting strength, they would not be at a loss like this. However, when these people heard the wolf howl, they felt like they were about to die under the claws of the wolves. If they did not even have the will to fight, how could they have the ability to fight? What do we do? What do we do? Oh, right, climb up the tree, quickly climb up the tree. Seeing them jump up the tree in a hurry, she could not help but grin. Some of the wolves here know how to climb up the tree. As soon as she finished speaking, she saw that they all froze and stared at each other speechlessly. Ow! The wolves howled again, and this time, several wolves appeared 10 meters away. Each of them was more than a meter tall and had gray fur. Their mouths were slightly open, revealing sharp fangs. Saliva dripped from their mouths as they stared at them with ferocious and bloodthirsty eyes. The wolves are here. The alchemists' faces turned pale. Some of them held their swords in their hands, but they could not help but tremble. Fighting as honorable alchemists, this kind of vulgar thing was disdained by them. They might be able to deal with weaker cultivators, but against these bloodthirsty and ferocious wolves, just looking at them made their hearts tremble. How could they still have the strength to fight? Looking at the pale faces of the people on the tree and under the tree, Feng Jiu grinned. Fellow alchemists, although I'm an odd job worker, I'm still a foundation establishment cultivator. Furthermore, I'm not good at alchemy, but I specialize in martial arts, so it's more than enough to deal with these wolves. Hearing this, everyone was stunned. Their eyes were filled with surprise as they looked at Feng Jiu. Really? Of course. She raised her chin and said, Then hurry up and chase the wolves away. Hearing this, Feng Jiu chuckled. It's really not difficult to chase the wolves away, but this is a matter of working for free. Hearing this, everyone looked at each other and said, If you chase the wolves away, each of us will give you a bottle of pills. Pills? No. She shook her head. I don't want pills. She had her own pills. Why would she want theirs? What's more, she might not even fancy their medicinal pills. No. Everyone was stunned. You don't want the pills we gave you? Are you stupid? Do you know how precious our medicinal pills are? Sure enough, he was just a servant. If he didn't even want medicinal pills, then what did he want? If you don't want pills, then what do you want? Someone asked in surprise. Gold, silver, jewels, jade, and treasures are fine, but I don't want things like pills. She grinned and asked, Do you have the things I mentioned? When everyone heard this, they all had strange expressions on their faces. You really want gold, silver, and jewelry? Yes. She nodded in response. Then you chase the wolf pack away first. We'll give it to you after this. One of the alchemists said. Unexpectedly, Feng Jiu chuckled. That's fine. The wolves haven't even gotten close yet. I think it's better for me to collect the gold, silver, and jewelry first before chasing the wolves away. This way, I can be braver and risk my life, right? But in this situation, how can we take it out? This is inconvenient. Chapter 14:38. Under Feng Jiu's smiling gaze, the alchemist could only untie his chinquin bag and take out some gold coins or precious stones to hand over to him. Seeing Feng Jiu take the items and stuff them into his chinquin bag, the alchemist's eyes twitched and he asked, Is this enough? If he continued to take them out, he would be completely defrauded. And it's about enough. Fengjiu nodded. His eyes narrowed into a smile as he patted the alchemist's shoulder. Don't worry. With me here, you definitely won't be missing an arm or a leg. Hearing this, the alchemist's mouth twitched. He watched as the youth tapped the ground with the tip of his foot and leaped to another alchemist to receive his so-called reward. Everyone took out gold coins and precious stones to give to him, but there were also a few who were unwilling. They stared suspiciously at Fengjiu and said, "You alone can chase away the pack of wolves? Don't joke around, you have to think carefully. If you cheat us, you won't be able to finish eating when we return." A wolf howl was heard as one of the gray wolves fiercely pounced on the tree trunk, causing the tree to shake violently. The alchemist who was standing on the tree did not have a firm footing and was hit by the wolf, causing him to slip and fall down. He fell on the back of the wolf and rolled to the side. He was so shocked that his face turned pale and he screamed out involuntarily. "Ah, help! Awoo! Hiss!" When the other alchemists on the tree saw this scene, they couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Their faces were deathly pale as they hugged the tree branches tightly to prevent themselves from falling down. Especially when they saw that the alchemist had fallen down the tree. Other than the giant wolf that was pouncing on him, there were a few other horses that fiercely rushed out from not far away and pounced on the alchemist. Standing on the tree and hugging the tree branches tightly, they could almost see the alchemist being torn to pieces in the next moment. When they thought of that scene, their bodies trembled and their legs went weak. They couldn't help but squat down. Unlike them, Fengjiu quickly turned around when she heard the commotion behind her. At the same time, she jumped down and raised her hand. A sharp cold light flashed in front of everyone's eyes. In the next moment, there was a blood-curdling scream and blood spurted out, splattering all over the ground. Ah! The alchemist who had fallen down the tree screamed in horror. Seeing the giant wolf pouncing on him, he closed his eyes and didn't dare to open them. Until his face was splashed with warm blood, he was startled and he instantly opened his eyes. What he saw was a green figure holding a blood-stained dagger standing in front of him, and the giant wolf's corpse. Over a meter-long wolf's carcass that was over a meter-long wolf's body that was over 1 meter-long wolf's carcass over. He's dead. The alchemist fell to the ground with the wolf's corpse on top of him. He could only see blood in front of his eyes and was at a loss. "Wait you still. Quickly go up." Fengjiu kicked away the giant wolf's carcass and picked up the alchemist who was lying limp on the ground. Using her strength, she threw him up the tree. "Ah!" The alchemist cried out in shock and quickly hugged the tree branches tightly. He stared blankly at the green figure below. The other people on the tree were the same. They only saw the green figure shuttling through the pack of wolves, raising his dagger and slashing it down. The glint of the dagger was blood red, and the murderous aura was threatening. Chapter 1439. Oh, the stimulation of the wolf's blood caused the nature of the wolves to be even more aroused. With a savage howl, the sharp wolf claws slashed out like sharp blades, leaving a few deep claw marks on the tree trunks. As the corpses of the giant wolves on the ground increased, the people on the tree couldn't help but swallow their saliva, their eyes filled with shock and fear. The youth who was circling the pack of wolves was reaping the lives of the ferocious beasts like a god of death. It was so easy and effortless that they could not even see a single wound on his body. The blood that splattered on his green robes was all the blood of the giant wolves. "Whoa!" A long wolf howl sounded. The remaining 7 to 8 giant wolves stared at Fengjiu unwillingly as they bared their teeth and howled. In the end, they could only retreat quickly after that long howl. Fengjiu's gaze swept around and saw the Wolf King standing in the distance. After glancing at the Wolf King, he retracted his gaze and squatted down to dig out the beast crystals of the giant wolves. At this moment, the 10 alchemists on the tree saw that the crisis had been averted, and each of them let out a sigh of relief. They looked at each other and then uncomfortably came down from the tree. They tidied their robes and tried their best to maintain the noble bearing that alchemists should have. However, each of them were in a sorry state, and their faces were deathly pale. Some of them were even trembling slightly. No matter how one looked at them, they didn't have the slightest bit of composure. It was only because they were trying their best to hold on that they looked a little comical. After keeping the beast crystals, Fengjiu turned and walked towards the two people behind him. He stretched out his hand in front of them and revealed a harmless smile, saying, "You haven't given me yours yet." The two people paused for a moment. Thinking of how ferocious he was when he killed the wolves, their hearts trembled. They hurriedly took out a corresponding amount of gold coins or precious stones and placed them in Fengjiu's hands. Seeing Fengjiu weighing the weight of the items in his hands, the two hurriedly said, "We only have these. We don't really need gold coins to enter the secret territory, so we really don't have that much. However, we still have some pills. Do you want them?" After saying this, not only did the people beside him feel strange, even the two people who were talking felt very strange, and their expressions became strange. In the past, it was others who begged them to give them pills or sell them some pills. This was the first time they had asked a young odd-job worker if he wanted their pills. Moreover, it was free. This feeling was really strange. Forget it. Although we're not from the same peak, we're still from the same sect. I won't bicker with you. She smiled and put away the things in her hands. Then she said to them, "Hurry up and go to the periphery. There aren't just giant wolves in the depths of this place. If you're really surrounded, you'll lose your life. Don't throw away your life for some spirit herbs that you haven't even seen." Looking at these alchemists who were being taught a lesson by her like children, Fengjiu suppressed the strange feeling in his heart and cleared his throat. "Well, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first. In the future, I'll have to ask you all to take care of me in the sect." When everyone heard this, they were stunned for a moment, then hurriedly said, "Of course, of course." Chapter 1440. Everyone looked at each other in dismay and shook their heads. They only knew that the young man was an odd-job worker from Three Yang Peak and was brought in by Chun Dao. They didn't know anything else. "All right, we'll know who he is once we get back to the sect and ask around. Let's leave quickly. The smell of blood here is too strong." One of them said, and hurriedly led everyone away, heading towards the outskirts. On the other side, the Fengjiu who had earned a lot was in a good mood. Her footsteps were extremely fast, as if the soles of her feet were not touching the ground at all. It was strange and ethereal. Around evening, she found a water source in the forest. It was a water source that flowed down from a high place. It was so clear that she could see the bottom, and there were leaves floating in it. After washing her face, she took off her boots and sat on the edge, soaking her feet in the water. The cold feeling seeped into her body from the soles of her feet. It was so comfortable that she closed her eyes. "So cool," she softly murmured with a smile on her face. She placed her hands behind her back and slightly raised her head to look at the sky with narrowed eyes. She listened to the birds chirping in the forest, the rustling of the leaves in the wind, and the tinkling of the mountain spring. Her entire body relaxed. Actually, there were times when she felt lost. She had been wandering around alone to gain experience. She had spent quite a lot of days like this. It was rare for her to have loved ones in this life. Sometimes, she really just wanted to be an idle and lazy person. After bringing her mother back home, she thought that she should also go back. Who cares about the 8 great empires? It would be better for her to return to her Phoenix dynasty and be an idle person. Just as she was thinking, she suddenly heard a faint sound coming from the forest. She was startled for a moment. She withdrew her feet and wiped the water off, putting on her boots and walked down the mountain spring water. About 100 meters away, she saw 2 middle-aged men washing their faces in the spring water and drinking a few mouthfuls. Seeing the 2 men drinking the water that flowed down from her feet, the corner of her mouth twitched. She couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Who's there?" The 2 men vigilantly turned around and shouted in a deep voice. When they swept their gazes across the surroundings, they frowned when they saw the green figure standing not far away. "Who are you?" Fengjiu's gaze swept across the jade tablets on their waists and the badges on their chests. She composed herself, coughed lightly, and went forward to bow, Three-Yong Peak Service Disciple Fengjiu greets the two martial uncles. You're a service disciple from Three-Yong Peak. The two men were slightly surprised. They looked at the youth in green and glanced at the jade tablet on the youth's waist. They were a bit puzzled and confused. You're only a service's martial service. Another odd job disciple. How did you get in here? Senior Martial Uncle, it was Senior Martial Brother Chun who brought me here. I was in the same group as Senior Martial Brother Chun and the others. However, when we encountered a giant bear in the forest, I got separated from them and was chased all the way here by the giant bear. Her expression was pleasantly surprised and excited. She looked at the two people in front of her with a respectful gaze. I've delivered spiritual herbs to the two martial uncles' cave residences. It's just that I never had the chance to meet martial uncles. I didn't expect to meet martial uncles here. I'm really too lucky. You actually drank the water I washed my feet with. She didn't know what to say. From the jade tablets and badges on their waists, she determined that the two of them were disciples of Three-Yong children. It was normal for them to come here. After all, there were precious spiritual herbs that didn't exist outside. Chapter 1441. Her eyes flashed as she recalled what San Yangzi said to her mother that day. Therefore, she looked at the two of them and said with a smile, "Speaking of which, what a coincidence. I also met Uncle Master Shangwan in this forest earlier." "What? You met Junior Sister Shangwan?" The two of them looked at Fengjiu in astonishment. She really went into the depths of the forest? Hearing this and seeing their reaction, she blinked and said, "I only saw the white figure from afar, and it looked very much like Martial Aunt Shangwan. I didn't see her face, but I've seen Martial Aunt Shangwan a few times in the mountains, so I'm somewhat sure that the figure was her. But what?" The two of them asked nervously. Fengjiu looked at them and said worriedly, "But at that time, I saw that Martial Aunt Shangwan seemed to be injured, and there was no one beside her. I wanted to chase after her, but I was only in the foundation establishment stage, so I couldn't catch up to her speed." She heard that Three-Yongzi's disciples had some ulterior motives towards her mother. Since that was the case, she could make use of them. Sure enough, when the two of them heard this, they frowned and walked to the side, whispering, "Eldest senior brother is right. Master will definitely let junior sister pick the herbs that he needs." Could it be that what eldest senior brother said was true? Master really intends to. No matter what, I think we should remind junior sister. But I'm afraid that even if we want to, we can't change Master's decision. Let's not talk about other things first. If junior sister really wants to pick the 3 herbs, it must be in the mountain of 1,000 herbs in the depths of the secret realm. Only there are the 3 herbs that Master needs. However, there are many guardian beasts in the mountain of 1,000 herbs. I'm afraid that if we're late, junior sister will. Then let's hurry over. Maybe we can help. Thus, the two of them prepared to rush into the depths of the forest. At this moment, a pair of hands reached out and pulled on their robes. "Martial uncles, please wait." Fengjiu, who had heard their words, looked at them and blinked innocently, saying, "Martial uncles, take me with you. I'll die if I stay here alone in this deep forest. If you follow this direction, you'll reach the outer perimeter. We want to go deeper, and it'll be inconvenient for you." One of them said, waving his hand and glancing at the robe that was being pulled. "Let go." Fengjiu didn't let go. Instead, he said, "But martial uncle, if you leave, what if I encounter ferocious beasts when I go out? What if they encountered a pack of wolves? I will die. Martial uncle, we are all from Three-Yong Peak. Although I'm only a part-time disciple, I am still a disciple. You must take me with you." Hearing this, the two of them frowned, looked at each other, and sent out a wave of energy. "You'll die faster if you follow us." With that, they ignored Fengjiu and rushed into the forest. Seeing this, Fengjiu grinned. "Mountain of all medicines? Is this the destination?" With that, she tapped the ground with the tip of her foot and followed behind the two of them. At the same time, in the depths of the forest, at the foot of the mountain of 1,000 herbs, Shangwan Wanrong, who was dressed in white, raised her head and looked at the precipitous mountain of 1,000 herbs. She looked at the myriad of spiritual herbs growing on the mountain. Chapter 1442. She glanced at the mountain of all medicines in front of her and called out her flying sword, intending to ride it up. This side of the mountain was too steep, so she could only go up the mountain first and then look for those herbs. However, when she flew up on her flying sword and approached the mountain of all medicines, a wave of pressure came from the mountain and fiercely pressed her down from midair. Her entire body instantly lost balance and fell down. Ah! She cried out in surprise. Due to the pressure, she was unable to stabilize her body as she fell. Seeing that she was about to fall, a figure swept out and caught her. Shangwan Wanrong was startled and was slightly surprised when she saw the person who came. Eldest senior brother, why are you here? After landing, she steadied herself and hurriedly retreated from his side. She looked at the person in front of her with a complicated expression. This was a man who looked to be in his 30s. He wore a green robe, and his black hair was tied up. His face was upright and handsome. In the cultivation world, where handsome men and beautiful women were as common as clouds, this kind of appearance wasn't considered outstanding. However, his aura was steady, and his deep eyes were filled with the light of wisdom. His entire body exuded the steady aura of a mature man. At this moment, he looked at Shangwan Wanrong, who retreated from his side and withdrew his hand with a natural expression. However, there was a touch of disappointment and loss in his heart. Junior sister, you can't go pick these herbs. He looked at her and said in a deep voice. Hearing this, Shangwan Wanrong's eyes flashed. Eldest senior brother knows what herbs I came to pick. Didn't Master say that he only told her about this? Only told her to come here to pick herbs? Didn't he say that he had other instructions for eldest senior brother and the others? Why, seemingly seeing her doubts, Duan Mubai sighed softly. Master didn't tell us that you came to the mountain of all medicines to pick herbs, but we all know. Junior sister, I've been by Master's side for so many years, so Master's matters can't be hidden from me. Do you know? His voice paused, as if he didn't know how to say it. It also seemed that these words were difficult to say. Shangwan Wanrong frowned slightly. Isn't it just picking herbs? Could it be that there's something I don't know? Duan Mubai looked at her and said, Give me your hand. Hearing this, she hesitated for a moment and reached out her hand. She saw him reach out and put his finger on her wrist, carefully checking her pulse. Seeing this, she was puzzled. What was he doing? Was there something wrong with her body? Impossible. If there was any discomfort in her body, she would know. After all, she was also an alchemist and more or less knew some medical knowledge. After a while, Duan Mubai withdrew his hand and sighed softly. Master is indeed master. I'm useless and can't detect the abnormality in your body. However, I can tell you that you really can't go and pick this medicine. If you do, you'll be giving away your life. Why? She didn't understand. Although Master was strict with her, not allowing her to go out and not allowing her to have too much contact with her senior brothers from time to time, he would still refine some pills that could increase her strength and were beneficial to her. Could it be that he would harm her? What's more, she was very careful. Even if it was the pill that her master gave her, she would only take it after checking that it wasn't poisonous and wouldn't cause any harm to her body. There shouldn't be any problems. Chapter 1443. He looked at her and paused for a moment before saying, Junior sister, I actually think it's better for you to leave the Danyang sect. Shangwan Wanrong's heart sank when she heard this. She asked, Eldest senior brother, do you know something about me that I don't know? Eldest senior brother, little junior sister. Two voices were heard. The two people standing at the foot of the mountain turned around and saw two figures rushing over from not far away. Behind them, there was a thin and small cyan figure following. Its third junior brother and fourth junior brother. Duan Mubai's gaze swept past the two people and landed on the cyan figure behind them. Who is that? Shangwan Wanrong glanced at the two people in front of her. Then her gaze landed on the cyan figure behind them. When she saw who the thin and small figure was, she couldn't help but be slightly startled. It's Three Young Peaks' odd job disciple, Fungio. But Why did he also come here? Eldest senior brother, little junior sister, why? Why are the two of you together? The two people arrived in front of them and looked at them with surprise. I knew little junior sister would come here, so I waited for her here. Duan Mubai looked at the two of them and said, why did you also bring an odd job disciple here? How did he come in? There was a rule that only Golden Core Realm alchemists could enter. That youth was only an odd job disciple, and a foundation establishment realm cultivator at that. Why did he also come in? And he even followed them here? The two people were startled. They looked at each other and then turned around. When they saw the figure following behind them, a strange expression appeared on their faces. We clearly let him go out first, but we didn't expect him to actually follow us in. What surprised them was that this odd job disciple could actually keep up with their footsteps. However, when they saw that the odd job disciple was in a sorry state, his cyan clothes were slightly torn, his face was covered in dust, and he was sweating profusely as he followed behind them, they were relieved. Marshal Aunt Shangwan. Feng Jiu waved at his mother from afar and grinned happily, because he saw her standing there safe and sound. Therefore, he quickly walked forward. Only the heavens knew how difficult it was for her to make herself look so wretched and covered in sweat. It would be strange if they didn't find it strange if someone was following them with light footsteps. Arriving in front of him, she smiled and bowed respectfully towards Duan Mubai. Greetings, Marshal Uncle. He hadn't seen any of them, even after spending so much time at the Three Yang Peak. However, he didn't expect to see three of them here. The last one didn't seem to be here. Why are you here? Shangwan Wanrong looked at Feng Jiu and asked. She saw that he was in a sorry state and was sweating profusely, but there were no wounds on his body. She couldn't help but be puzzled. In the depths of the forest, even golden core cultivators would inevitably be injured. Although this youth was in a sorry state, there was not a single wound on his body. It was as if he had not encountered any danger along the way. Hearing this, Feng Jiu smiled and squinted his eyes. I was chased into this place by a giant bear. Fortunately, I met the two martial uncles, and then I followed them all the way here. Duan Mubai, the eldest disciple of the three Yangtze, was somewhat out of her expectations. This person was calm and reserved, and his appearance was maintained to be extremely youthful. It was impossible to tell that he was already a few decades old. Chapter 1444. Yes, she replied and lowered her gaze. Duan Mubai stared at Feng Jiu for a while before looking away at Shangwan Wanrong. Junior sister, what do you plan to do next? As soon as they heard this, their gazes descended onto Shangwan Wanrong, and they saw her looking at the mountain of 1,000 herbs above her. She said, since Master told me to get those 3 herbs, then I'll go get them. As for the rest, we'll talk about it after we return to the sect. She wanted to see why she would lose her life if she picked those 3 herbs. What did those 3 herbs have to do with her? What exactly did her master want to do? Feng Jiu's eyes flickered, and he thought to himself, those 3 herbs? What exactly are those 3 herbs? Why did these people's expressions change when they mentioned those 3 herbs? Seeing this, Duan Mubai sighed. Junior sister, why do you have to do this? Eldest senior brother, you don't have to say any more. Shangwan Wanrong looked at them and said, I'll go into the mountain of 1,000 herbs to pick herbs. Don't follow me. Don't worry, I'll be fine. We'll meet in the sect. As she spoke, she cupped her hands and bowed to the 3 of them before walking forward. Junior sister, Duan Mubai stood in front of her and frowned. The mountain of 1,000 herbs has restrictions in the air, so you can't go up on your sword. It's too dangerous for you to go up like this. If you fall from a dare like before, how many times do you think you'd be so lucky? I'll be careful. She looked at him steadily and said, Eldest senior brother, this is the task that Master gave me. Moreover, Master told me that he has another task for you. I think that it's impossible for you to be here. Hearing this, their eyes flickered slightly. That's right, they shouldn't have appeared here. Their master did give them some other instructions, but when they found out that she had entered this place, they came looking for her. They didn't follow her, but looked at each other as she walked forward. Finally, Their gazes landed on Duan Mubai. Eldest senior brother, are we really going to let junior sister go into the mountain to look for herbs? Not to mention other things. There are many poisonous snakes and fierce beasts there. If she goes alone, won't she? Go and do what Shurzuan told you to do. I'll follow junior sister to take a look, Duan Mubai instructed and gestured for the two of them to leave first. Then, as if he had thought of something, he said, "All right, bring that odd job disciple out as well. Let him. Where is he?" He turned around, but found that the youth who was originally standing not far away had disappeared at some point. The two of them were also stunned. They looked around and suddenly pointed to the front. Eldest senior brother, look, that servant disciple is over there, only to see that the cyan figure had already passed by them at some unknown time, following behind Shangwan Wanrong. Seeing this scene, they couldn't help but be startled. What is this odd-job worker trying to do? A mere foundation establishment cultivator dared to enter the mountain of 1,000 medicines. Does he want to die? Duan Mubai said angrily and quickly chased after him. At this moment, Shangwan Wanrong, who was in front, looked at the young man behind her and couldn't help but stop. Why are you following me? Go back quickly. Fengjiu grinned and looked at her with narrowed eyes. Uncle Master Shangwan, don't you want to pick herbs? I'll go in with you. I can pick herbs too. Chapter 1445. It's all right, I can protect myself. Shangwan Wanrong was about to speak when Duan Mubai walked over and said to Fengjiu with a solemn face, "How can a servant disciple like you protect yourself? Hurry up and follow them out." Hearing this, Fengjiu blinked and came to Shangwan Wanrong's side. "Martial Aunt Shangwan, just let me follow you. I really won't cause any trouble for you. It wasn't easy coming here, and I also want to go up and pick herbs." As she spoke, she paused and glanced at Duan Mubai before continuing, "Moreover, there's no rule that says that disciples who come here to train can't go near the mountain of 1,000 herbs. If you don't bring me along, then I can only stay away from you. However, I will still enter the mountain of 1,000 herbs." Hearing this, Shangwan Wanrong's gaze moved slightly, and she looked deeply at Fengjiu before saying, "Since that's the case, then follow me. Junior sister, eldest senior brother, you should go and do your own thing. I'll be fine here. If anything really happens, it will be after we return to the sect. At that time, if something really happens that I can't save myself, I hope that eldest senior brother can save my life." Her voice paused slightly as she looked into the distance and sighed softly. "Junior sister, I still have an unfulfilled wish. There's still someone I want to see." She was not afraid of death, but she was afraid that she would not be able to see her daughter and not be able to see the man hidden deep in her heart. Fengjiu looked at the expression on her face and the helplessness in her words, and his heart clenched. "Mother, are you thinking of father and me? Do you want to go back and see us?" "Actually, I'm right here, right in front of you." Duan Mubai's expression froze when he heard this, and he nodded solemnly. "Junior sister, don't worry. Eldest senior brother promises you." He looked deeply at her and reminded her worriedly, "Since that's the case, then you must be careful when you enter the mountain." Shangwan Wanrong nodded in response and watched as he walked towards the other two. The three of them left together. "Let's go." She looked at Fengjiu and said, then turned and walked forward. Fengjiu looked at her from behind. He opened his mouth to say something, but he didn't know where to start. Was she going to tell her directly that she was her daughter? She was Fengqinga? Could she believe it? If she were to say this out loud, even she herself wouldn't believe it. How could someone who used to be from a 9th-ranked country come to one of the 8 great empires? And in front of her, if she said that, she was afraid that she would only think that someone had sent her to get close to her. Thinking of this, she scratched her head in frustration. Sigh, why is it so difficult to acknowledge a relative? Shangwan Wanrong, who was walking in front, felt that the youth behind her had been looking at her. Judging from her breathing, it seemed that she had encountered something annoying and was in a difficult situation. However, since he didn't say anything, she didn't ask further. After all, it was his privacy. However, she slowed down her pace and looked in front of her, This mountain of 1,000 herbs has been sealed in the air. We can only go around this side and go up from the other side. Follow me closely. Some of the herbs in the forest are poisonous. Don't touch them in case you get poisoned." "Yes," Feng Jiu responded and quickly walked to her side. After glancing at her, he walked forward with her. Chapter 1446. 2 days later, they finally circled around the foot of the mountain and climbed up 10,000 Medicine Mountain. She followed beside her mother and watched her skillfully explore the forest, checking if there were any ferocious beasts in the surroundings. She would also pay attention to whether or not there were any guardian spiritual beasts when picking medicinal herbs. During these 2 days, they didn't encounter any major incidents or dangers. They walked towards the edge of the mountain, close to the precipitous wall. It seemed that the first medicinal herb grew in that precipitous wall. Thus, she glanced at her mother, who was squatting down to pick a spiritual herb, and asked, "Martial Uncle Shangwan, Martial Uncle Duan, and the others said that you need to pick 3 spiritual herbs. What kind of spiritual herbs are they?" She was very curious. What 3 spiritual herbs were they that had to be picked? Moreover, from what they said, it seemed that if they picked all 3 herbs and gave them to 3 Yangtze, would her good mother lose her life? Why was it like this? Those are top-quality spiritual herbs. You don't recognize them. As Shangwan Wanrong spoke, she turned around and glanced at her. "Are you tired? Do you want to rest for a while?" Hearing this, she hurriedly said, "I'm just hungry." Hearing this, she took out a seclusion grain pill and handed it to Feng Jiu. "Have you finished eating? Take this." Unexpectedly, Feng Jiu shook his head and waved his hand. "I don't like to eat medicine to fill my stomach. I like to eat meat." Saying this, he couldn't help but grin. Shangwan Wanrong was startled and revealed a faint smile. "If you want to eat meat, you'll have to look for it on this mountain. Let's see if there's any meat to eat. Then should we rest for a while?" She looked at her expectantly and asked, "Rest? In any case, there's still a lot of time. There's no rush." As she spoke, she looked around and pointed to a place not far away. "Over there. There's a large flat rock over there. There's no grass around, so we can rest there." "Okay," Feng Jiu responded, then said, "Martial Uncle Shangwan, then you go sit for a while. I'll be back in a while." As soon as he finished speaking, he ran off. "Hey, you." Before Shangwan Wanrong could finish her sentence, she saw that Feng Jiu had already run away. She could only go to the big rock and sit there, waiting for him to come back. About the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, Shangwan Wanrong, who was drinking water, saw the black-clothed young man come back with 2 wild pheasants in one hand and a bundle of dry branches in the other. She was startled, got up, and walked forward. "Sure, Shu Shangwan, you just sit down. I'll do the rest." Feng Jiu grinned, indicating that she didn't need to come over. Shangwan Wanrong came to Feng Jiu's side and took the bundle of branches from her hands. She said with some surprise, "I didn't see any wild pheasants on the way here. How'd you catch them?" This kind of pheasant ran the fastest. Without a certain speed, it was impossible to catch it, especially in such a mountain forest. What's the big deal about catching 2 pheasants? I often run around by myself, so I'm used to doing these things. I have experience." She smiled as she spoke. She had Shangwan Wanrong go sit on the side while she took care of it herself. Not long after, she lit the branches on fire and then placed the 2 wild pheasants in the fire to roast. She said with a smile, "Martial Uncle, just wait to taste my cooking. How could those seclusion grain pills be as fragrant as this meat?" Hearing this, Shangwan Wanrong smiled lightly and took a branch with pheasants in it from Feng Jiu's hands. "I'll help." She looked at the pheasants being roasted in the fire and saw the young man's skilled hands. She couldn't help but ask, "You're so young. How come you often do these things?" Chapter 1447. She was startled and asked, "Why are you running around? You're still young. Will your family be able to stop worrying?" Feng Jiu's hand that was flipping the pheasant paused. He looked up at her and smiled. "I came to find my mother, and I can protect myself." "Find your mother?" She was slightly surprised and asked, "Then did you find her?" "I found her. She's in the sect. He looked at her as he spoke. Meeting the youth's clear and smiling eyes, Shangwan Wanrong's heart jumped, and she inexplicably jumped up. She felt that this youth's words had a deeper meaning, as if there was a layer of gauze shrouding it, making it impossible for people to see clearly. Then your mother doesn't know that you came to find her? You're in the same sect, but she didn't recognize you? Perhaps because this topic touched her heart, she couldn't help but ask again. Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled and said, "My mother probably thought that I was still at home. My home is very far from here, so she didn't think that I would come. Moreover, she left when I was very young, so it's normal that she didn't recognize me." "Then why did she leave you?" she asked in a daze. "My mother's family didn't allow her to be with my father, so they took her back and locked her up. My father raised me alone, and sometimes my father would hold my mother's things in a daze. I thought that when I had the ability, I would help find my mother." His voice paused, and he looked at Shangwan Wanrong, who was in a daze, and said, "I want to reunite with my family. Martial Uncle Shangwan, tell me, if you were my mother, would you go back with me?" Shangwan Wanrong stared at Fengjiu in a daze, waves of shock and excitement surging in her heart. Her eyes were red, and tears welled up in her eyes. In an instant, thoughts flashed through her mind. String after string of information was connected by her at this moment, as if she didn't dare to believe it, and also felt that it was inconceivable. In the past, she always felt that this youth seemed to like to get close to her. Wherever she appeared, she would appear. The few times they met, she showed her intimacy and joy that was so obvious. He told her that her surname was Feng, and her name was Fengjiu. He told her that he missed his mother. He even ran over to ask her if she would participate in the training in the mystic realm. She even told him that he was only at the foundation establishment stage and couldn't enter the arcane realm. However, he still managed to enter. Not only did he come in, he even came to her side. If she still couldn't figure out this string of matters by now, she would be Shangwan Wanrong in vain. The more she looked at Fengjiu, who was dressed like a teenager, the more she felt that this was a mischievous girl. How could this be a teenager? However, not only did she dress up very well, even her mannerisms and demeanor did not have a trace of a girl's coquettishness. Thinking of how she handled the pheasants neatly and how she said that she often ran outside just to find her mother, her heart tightened. She forced herself to hold back the tears in her eyes. Even if she really wanted to confirm it, even if she really wanted to pull her into her arms and ask her everything, even if she really wanted to hear her call her mother, she held it all back at this moment. Chapter 1448. She also wanted to reunite with her family. However, after so many years had passed, she didn't dare to think about this idea. She had just said that her father always took her mother's things and missed her. So, after so many years, he still hadn't remarried? His memories had clearly been sealed. So how could he recall them? She saw Shangwan Rong's expression and saw her sitting there absent-mindedly. She didn't even react when the pheasant roasted over the fire was slightly charred. Seeing this, she took the branch from her hand and looked at her, asking, "Martial Uncle Shangwan, you still haven't told me. Will my mother come home with me?" Hearing Fengjiu's voice, Shangwan Wanrong came back to her senses. She raised her sleeve to wipe away the tears at the corners of her eyes and adjusted her mind. She suppressed the ups and downs in her heart and stared at her. She will go back with you, but not now." Hearing this, Fengjiu stared at her. When their eyes met, the layer of paper that hadn't been broken seemed to have disappeared in front of them. They had guessed each other's identities, but hadn't recognized each other. After a long time, Fengjiu lowered her eyes. "I know. It should be about that 3 Yangzi." In the end, what did that 3 Yangzi want to do? Seeing her lower her eyes and the smile on her face, Shangwan Wanrong hurriedly said, "She will definitely go back. When she's done with her matters, she will definitely go back. I promise. And I believe you." She raised her eyes and smiled, nodding. Not long after, the roasted pheasant was cooked. She added some seasoning and handed it to her. "Try it." "Thank you." Shangwan Wanrong took it and softly thanked her. She tore off a piece and ate it. The two people chatted while eating the roasted pheasant, perhaps because they had opened their mouths. Although they hadn't broken through the layer of paper, the feeling and atmosphere of getting along was a bit different. After eating the roasted pheasant, the two people continued to walk forward. This time, Shengwan Wanrong took the initiative to say, "Among the 3 herbs my Shizhuan asked me to collect, one is red mountain stone iron. This kind of spiritual herb grows in the cracks of the stone walls and can only be found in those steep mountain walls. Later, I'll go halfway up the mountain to take a look. You stay up there and wait." "Sure, Taiying Shan Hong. This is an extremely rare elixir. There must be a guardian beast next to such an elixir. Moreover, it's located halfway up the mountain. Most of them are poisonous snakes." As Fengjiu spoke, he frowned. "So took in mind the Taiying Red Mountain. Then I'll go down and do it. I recognize this spirit medicine. No, it's too dangerous. I'll go down. Don't worry. It's not my first time picking herbs, so I'll be fine." She directly refused. When she reached the top, she took out a thick rope from her space and tied it around her body. "I've already prepared everything before I came here. Everything is complete, and I've also taken the antidote beforehand." Hearing her say this, Fengjiu had no choice but to take the rope in her hand and tie it firmly to her body. He said, "Then be careful. I'll wait for you up there. Tie one side of the rope to the big tree here." As she spoke, she tied the other end of the rope to the big tree next to her. She said, "If there's anything, call me or pull the rope." Hearing this, Shengwan Wanrong revealed a gentle and soft smile. "I know. You don't have to worry. Wait for me here. You also have to be careful of the surroundings in case there are ferocious beasts." Chapter 1449. "No need, I have some." She stuffed it back to her, but she stuffed it back in. "Take it," Shengwan Wanrong said. After glancing at her, she turned around and walked to the side. "I'm going down." Looking at the pill bottles in her hand, Fengjiu smiled and put them away. "I'll help you pull the rope." As she said this, she pulled the rope from the side, allowing her to borrow strength to descend. This 10,000 medicine mountain was very high. From the time they circled around to the top, it took them 2 days. She didn't even know where the stone iron red mountain was growing, because looking up from the bottom of the mountain, there was a layer of fog in the air that blocked their line of sight. Looking down from the top of the mountain was the same. They couldn't see from a distance, so they could only go down and check it out bit by bit. She used a full half an hour to descend, with just a rope. When she walked to the edge and looked down, she could no longer see her mother's figure because it was blocked by the fog. "I wonder what's down there? It's really too dangerous like this." She softly muttered, feeling a bit uneasy. The stone iron red mountain was a pill that could prolong one's life. It was one of the main ingredients needed to refine the life essence pill. Because it was extremely rare, it was hard to find it at a high price even in the auction house outside. Could it be that 3 Yangtze wanted to use this medicine to refine a pill that could prolong one's life? However, ordinary life essence pills shouldn't have any effect on 3 Yangtze. According to what she knew, 3 Yangtze was already several hundred years old. Just as she was thinking, she suddenly heard rustling sounds. She turned around to look. She didn't know when, but more than 10 monkeys had scuttled out from the tree. They were all squeaking, and some even wanted to untie the rope tied to the tree. "Scram!" Fengjiu sternly shouted. She raised her hand, and a wave of pressure attacked those monkeys. Perhaps they were afraid of the ancient divine beast pressure in her body, but after those monkeys were pushed back several meters, they didn't dare to move forward. Instead, they scattered and fled in all directions. She sat under the big tree with the rope tied to it. She held the rope with one hand, and sensed the movement below from the tightness of the rope and the rhythm of its shaking. At the same time, Shengwan Wanrong, who descended, was searching all over the stone wall, and her eyes lit up when she saw a spirit herb growing between the cracks of a stone, causing her expression to be filled with delight. "It's sure Taiying Shan Hong." Looking at the spirit herb that was 2 meters away from her, she held the rope with both hands and pushed off the mountain wall with her feet. Then, she took a deep breath and used the force of her feet pushing off the mountain wall to swing the rope in that direction. Fengjiu, who was on top of the rope, felt that the rope was shaking violently. He was slightly startled and quickly got up to the side and shouted, "Martial Uncle Shangguan, are you all right?" "It's okay. I found Shi tying Shanong." Shangguan Wanrong, who was halfway up the mountain, raised her voice and replied. Her body swayed and came to this side. She just happened to be on the other side of the stone crack, but she didn't immediately approach. There was bound to be a guardian beast next to a top-grade spirit herb like this. If she went forward to pick it, she could lose her life at any time. As a result, she flipped her hand and took out a gold coin and threw it at the stone crack. Only a clang was heard as the coin fell. A black figure scuttled out with a whoosh and bit the gold coin. Chapter 1450. Black gold snake. One drop of its venom can kill a ferocious beast, and the snake gallbladder is even better. Since I've encountered it, I'll catch it while I'm at it. Shangguan Wanrong softly murmured, her gaze fixed on the small snake that glowed with an oily black light. In the next moment, she first applied the medicine on her hand, then used the strength of the rope to swing forward, instantly grabbing the small snake's head. At the same time, Fengjiu, who was waiting above, faintly heard the sound coming from below. Although the sound drifted in the wind and wasn't clear, knowing that she was down there, he could rest assured. She waited above for about the time it took for a stick of incense to burn before she felt the rope vibrate. Guessing that her mother had already picked the herbs, she hurriedly retracted the rope and pulled her back from below the steep wall. About an hour later, she was pulled up from below. Fengjiu went forward to take a look. Seeing that apart from her clothes being rubbed and dirty, there were no wounds, he secretly let out a sigh of relief. "Are you okay? Did you pick the herbs?" Fengjiu asked while helping her untie the rope. "I picked them. Look, this is the stone tying shanhong, one of the essential main ingredients for refining the life essence pill." Shangguan Wanrong lightly smiled and took out the spiritual herb she picked to show Fengjiu, then said, "I also caught the stone tying shanhong's guardian snake. It's a black gold snake." Hearing this, Fengjiu was startled and his heart jumped. The black gold snake is highly venomous, and its reaction is extremely fast. "You weren't bitten, right?" "No, it's fast. My speed is faster than it." She smiled as she put away the spiritual herb, patted her clothes, and said, "I still need 2 more herbs to find them." Hearing this, Fengjiu said, "What are those 2 herbs? I can help you find them." Hearing this, Shangguan Wanrong slightly smiled. "Although you're quite familiar with spiritual herbs and have been delivering spiritual herbs on the peak for some time, those herbs are extremely rare even in the sect. Even if you see them, you won't necessarily recognize them, because those 3 herbs were something she had never seen before. If you don't tell me, how do you know I won't recognize them?" She smiled slyly and looked at her with a pair of smiling eyes, proudly saying, "I'm very powerful. There's no spiritual herb that I don't recognize." "Oh." Shangguan Wanrong heard this and asked, "So, you've really learned it?" I've learned it." Fengjiu nodded. She was very confident. She was. However, judging from the current situation, although the stone iron echoing mountain red was one of the essential herbs for the life essence pill, it was just that. She didn't know how many other herbs were needed. Even she didn't know what kind of pill the final pill would be, but she was sure that it had something to do with the life essence pill. Seeing this, Shangguan Wanrong glanced at her and took out a folded piece of paper from her space. "These are the 3 herbs I'm looking for." Fengjiu took it and opened it. She saw 3 spiritual herbs drawn on the white paper with their names and growth habits. The first one was the freshly picked stone tying shanong. The second is the flower of longevity, and the third is the 7-leaf grass. Chapter 1451. Yes, it's these 3 herbs. Speaking of which, I've been practicing alchemy for so long, but this is the first time I've seen these 3 herbs. If my master hadn't marked out the growth habits of these herbs, it would have been really difficult to find these 3 herbs in this huge mountain of 1,000 herbs. Speaking of this, she smiled. But it's okay, I finally found the first one. Then, does Marshall Uncle know the medicinal properties of the longevity flower and the 7-leaf variant grass? Fengjiu looked at her and asked. I once heard that Master 3 Yangzi once suffered a fatal internal injury. In recent years, his internal injury has worsened, and he doesn't have much time left. And this stone, Iron Reflection Mountain Red, is a necessary ingredient to refine the life essence pill. I guess the other 2 ingredients should also be used to refine the life essence pill. He probably wants to use these pills to refine a pill that can cure his internal injuries and prolong his life. Her voice paused, and she hesitated. But, after all, my cultivation in alchemy is far inferior to his. Even if I know these 3 herbs, I don't know what kind of vitality pill he wants to refine. Marshall Uncle Duan told Marshall Uncle not to collect these herbs. Otherwise, you'll lose your life. Marshall Uncle, have you never thought that perhaps, in addition to these pills, the peak master might want your life? Fengjiu directly pointed out the most important point. But even she didn't know why it was her mother. Could it be that there was something on her mother that 3 Yangzi wanted? She always had a feeling that something was wrong when 3 Yangzi took her as his last disciple and brought her into the sect, but didn't hold the apprenticeship ceremony and didn't allow her to go down the mountain. It was as if he was afraid that she would escape. Shangguan Wanrong's eyes flashed slightly, and she smiled. Don't worry, I'll pay attention to this. We can't find the answer here. We'll only know when we return to the peak. Okay, Fengjiu responded and went to find the other 2 spiritual herbs with her. In his mind, he was thinking about what kind of pill would be formed when these 3 herbs were mixed and refined. A few days later, Chun Dao and the others finished concocting a batch of pills, then went looking for more spirit ingredients. Actually, we should go to the 10,000 Medicine Mountain. There are precious spirit medicines there. Unfortunately, an alchemist said, his eyes were filled with yearning and fear. There were a lot of spirit herbs in that place, but there were also a lot of dangers. For alchemists like them who only cultivated spirit energy and not battle prowess, the strength of a gold core cultivator was not even comparable to the battle prowess of a foundation establishment cultivator. With such battle prowess, it was hard to say when they would die inside. However, when they thought of the spiritual herbs on the 10,000 Medicine Mountain, their hearts itched unbearably. Just think about it. Whatever you do, you have to do it within your capabilities. Don't compare yourself with others. We don't have that kind of strength. Chun Dao glanced at them and said. He leaned against the tree and drank some water to moisten his throat. Just as he was about to relax and take a nap, he felt the ground tremble slightly, as if something was running towards them. What was that sound? Someone asked in shock. He hurriedly laid down on the ground to listen for any movement. Once he heard it, the sound that sounded like 10,000 horses galloping caused his expression to change. It'd sound like a beast tied. What? A beast tied? When everyone heard this, they stood up with pale faces. Even Chun Dao and Luo Heng's faces were full of shock and astonishment. Seeing that everyone was still in a daze, Chun Dao immediately shouted, "Run! What are you waiting for?" Chapter 1452. Everyone reacted and quickly fled with Chun Dao. However, right behind them, a cacophony of sounds like 10,000 horses galloping could be heard. The loud bangs were accompanied by the sounds of trees being knocked down and the roars and roars of ferocious beasts and spirit beasts. The sounds echoed in the forest. A slower alchemist was hit by a ferocious beast and flew into the air. He screamed and fell into the herd of beasts, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Looking back, Chun Dao and the rest were stunned. They sucked in a cold breath, but did not dare to slow down. Run! Quick! Fly on your swords! Seeing tens of thousands of beasts surging towards them from behind, they all jumped onto their flying swords and changed to flying swords. However, because the trees in the forest were messy and there was a restriction in the sky, the height that they could fly was also limited. Under this kind of situation, they had to avoid the trees in front of them and also had to quickly escape for their lives. To these pill masters, they were already panicking. Ah! A cry of alarm was heard. A flying alchemist crashed into a tree and fell to the ground. He rolled and crawled as he cried for help. "Save me! Save me!" The others did not even care about running for their lives. Why would they save him? They only glanced downwards in panic before abandoning the place. Chen Dao saw this and gritted his teeth. He turned back and rushed towards that person. "Senior brother Chun, do you want to die?" Luo Heng shouted. He found it unbelievable that Chen Dao was going to save that person. "You go first," Chen Dao said without turning back. He turned back on his sword and reached out to pull up the alchemist who could not stand up due to fear. "Get up quickly." The alchemist was so shocked that his face turned pale. His body was trembling, and he was terrified. He tried to stand up, but he couldn't. Chen Dao even pulled him up onto the flying sword, but he couldn't stand up and fell down again. "Get up quickly! Quick!" Chen Dao shouted and pulled him up again. Seeing this, Luo Heng struggled in his heart. He gritted his teeth and said, "So be it." He also turned back and took out his sword. He injected spiritual energy into it and attacked the incoming ferocious beasts, trying to buy more time for Chen Dao to save the alchemist. After a few breaths, Chen Dao finally brought the alchemist up onto his flying sword. He shouted at Luo Heng, "Let's go quickly." As a result, the two of them quickly caught up with the person in front of them on their flying swords. Behind Chen Dao stood the alchemist he had saved. However, the beast tide was not only the ferocious beasts, there were also ferocious beasts and spiritual beasts in the air. It was as if something was chasing them from behind. "Be careful. It's a red-billed blood eagle." When Chen Dao saw the group of red-billed blood eagles in front of him, he wanted to slow down and avoid them. Who would have thought that a lone red-billed blood eagle would attack them from behind? Luo Heng let out a low cry and quickly dodged. Just as Chen Dao was about to dodge, he suddenly felt someone grab his robe from behind and push him in the direction of the red-billed blood eagle. I don't want to die." Chapter 1453. Chen Dao cried out in alarm. Due to the force coming from behind him, he was unable to stop himself from falling forward. He saw the red-billed blood eagle raise its sharp beak and fiercely peck at his lumbar vertebrae as he fell forward. In an instant, his face turned pale as a heart-wrenching pain assaulted him. He could only hear the sound of his bones breaking. It was so crisp and clear that it was transmitted into his mind. Immediately after, he was stepped on by the red-billed blood eagle and fell from the sky. Before he fell unconscious, he seemed to have heard Luo Heng's shocked and angry cry, "Senior brother Chen." Luo Heng angrily cried out in alarm. Looking at the person who was fleeing on Chen Dao's flying sword, he fiercely cursed, "Bastard!" Just as he cursed, he saw the red-billed blood eagle chase after that person. Not long after, that alchemist let out a blood-curdling scream as his entire head was pecked off by the red-billed blood eagle. In an instant, fresh blood splattered in the air and filled the air. "Serves you right to die a horrible death." He cursed angrily and turned around to look for Chen Dao. However, what he saw was that Chen Dao had fallen into a small ditch in the forest. Although he had avoided the miserable fate of being trampled by tens of thousands of beasts, his heart still sank when he saw Chen Dao lying there motionless and covered in blood. He seemed to have heard the sound of him being pecked by the blood eagle's beak. Where exactly was he hurt? He didn't dare to go down because all he could see were beasts. If he went down, he would definitely be trampled flat. Fortunately, those beasts ran past and didn't stop. After those beasts ran past, he looked around to make sure that there was no danger before going down. "Senior brother Chen? Senior brother Chen?" Among so many people, Chen Dao was the most righteous person. Even if he was greedy for life and afraid of death, he couldn't bear to see such a person abandoned here. He had clearly saved someone, But that person turned around and repaid his kindness with enmity and pushed him to his death. Human nature was selfish, but when he saw it with his own eyes and experienced it for himself, he realized that that kind of selfishness could chill one's heart. He wanted to help Chun Dao up from the ravine, but the ravine was only wide enough for a person and half a meter deep. It would take a lot of effort to help him up. Moreover, he was afraid that if he carelessly helped him up, it would worsen his injuries. For a moment, he didn't know what to do. "Senior Brother Chun? Senior Brother Chun?" he shouted from his side. Seeing that this was not a solution, he could only fly to the top of the trench on his flying sword. He squatted down and pulled him out from the trench by his robes and placed him aside. This method was similar to hanging him up. Even if his bones were dislocated, he shouldn't move too much. Putting away his flying sword, he quickly examined him, especially the lumbar vertebrae that he had heard the sound of cracking. When his hand touched the lumbar vertebrae, his heart turned cold, as if it had sunk to the bottom of a valley. Those who knew alchemy more or less knew some medical skills. With this examination, he found out that other than the internal injuries he suffered when he was trampled by the blood eagle, the most serious injury was the lumbar vertebrae. Everyone knew how important the lumbar vertebrae were. It was the support point for a person to stand up. But now this support point was actually Chapter 1454. Senior Brother Chun, I can only stabilize your internal injuries first. As for your lumbar spine, we can only wait until we return to the sect to ask someone to treat it. Luo Hung sighed and said, Fortunately, it won't be long before we leave. Otherwise, your injuries would still. It's really worrying. At the same time, on the top of the mountain of 1,000 medicine, Shangguan Wanrong and Fengjiu, who had already collected the 3 spiritual herbs they needed, were heading down the mountain. When they were on the mountain, they heard a loud bang below. For some reason, the entire forest seemed to shake and a wave of beasts surged. The ferocious beasts and spiritual beasts in the depths of the forest roared and rushed to the periphery. Some also came up the mountain. Looking at the strange phenomenon, the 2 of them were very puzzled. Why would a beast tide suddenly appear? And those ferocious beasts seemed to be running away from something. And that loud bang, what on earth was going on? Did that sound like the sound of an exploding pill furnace? Shangguan Wanrong asked. As soon as she spoke, she came back to her senses and chuckled. Yes, you don't know how to refine pills. How would you know what the sound of an exploding pill furnace is? Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled and narrowed her eyes, saying, I know how to refine pills. It's just that I didn't refine pills in the sect. I'm very familiar with the sound of an exploding pill furnace because I've also broken many furnaces. That sound just now was the sound of an exploding pill furnace. Someone should be refining pills below. But who would refine pills below the mountain of 1,000 medicine? Eldest senior brother, and the others definitely wouldn't. Could it be someone from another peak? She murmured with a trace of doubt on her face. After walking down for a while, perhaps the smell of medicine in the air was diffusing with the wind. Fengjiu, who was walking beside Shangguan Wanrong, stopped and looked down. This smell of medicine. What's wrong? Shangguan Wanrong saw her stop and asked. The smell of medicine in the air is poisonous. Fengjiu said slowly, squinting and looking down. Sure enough, someone is refining pills below. And I'm afraid it's a poisonous pill. To be able to make so many ferocious beasts rush out, this poison is very unusual and extremely overbearing. Poison? Shangguan Wanrong was startled, her expression strange. You know it's poisonous just by smelling it? She sniffed and said, The smell of medicine in the air has already dispersed. It's very faint, and even I can't tell what kind of poison is in it. As she spoke, she was a little worried, so she took out a pill and gave it to her. This is an antidote pill that I refined. Take one. Even if it's not poisonous, you'll be fine. Of course, because I'm not only an alchemist, I'm also a doctor. Fengjiu chuckled. He seemed to be in a good mood. You can keep this. I'm already immune to poison, so there's no need to call it an antidote pill. Ordinary poisons won't affect me. Shangwan Wanrong listened and looked at her in a daze. Ordinary poisons couldn't harm her. Was this for real? Could it be that she was also in danger over there? Someone often poisoned her, so much so that she was now immune to poison. Let's go. Let's go down and take a look. Maybe that person hasn't gone far. Chapter 1455. When they came down to search, they found a place in the dense forest at the foot of the mountain. There were traces of a barrier that had been set up before being removed. In that place, the aura in the air had not completely dissipated, and the smell of medicine was much stronger than in other places in the forest. It's here, Fengjiu said, and walked in to take a look. She saw that there were traces of a pill furnace exploding on the ground. The fragments of the pill furnace had already been cleaned up. Aside from the traces on the ground, there were no other fragments to be seen. Even the person refining the pill was not seen. She slowly walked inside and looked around. When her foot stepped on a piece of metal inserted into the soil, she stopped and squatted down to take a look. A fragment of the pill furnace was half buried in the sand. When she took it out to take a look, there were still some residual medicinal dregs on the fragment. This person should have wanted to refine a 5th-tier pill or above. However, the pill furnace couldn't withstand it and exploded. Look, she handed the pill furnace to her mother. There are still medicinal dregs on it. From the medicinal dregs, you can tell that it was a 5th-tier pill or above. However, he failed. Shangwan Wanrong took the fragment and carefully looked at it. When her gaze fell on the vein patterns on the fragment, her eyes involuntarily shrank, and a trace of fear flashed through her eyes. Seeing her expression, Fengjiu's eyes flashed and asked, "Martial Ant, do you recognize this pill furnace fragment?" "No, I don't recognize it." Shangwan Wanrong shook her head. She held the fragment of the pill furnace tightly in her hand. She seemed to be lost in thought. Seeing this, Fengjiu didn't ask any more questions. After looking around for a while, she said, "This person should have already left. Let's go too." It could be guessed that her mother recognized the fragment of the pill furnace. She should know who was refining the pill here. Since she didn't want to say, then she wouldn't ask. Let's go outside." She put away the fragment and collected her expression. She walked outside with Fengjiu. Not long after the two left, a figure walked out of the cave halfway up the mountain. He stood there and watched the two leave. After a long time, he turned around and entered the cave. When the two of them were heading outside, they met Duan Mu Bai, who was heading inside. "Junior sister, are you all right?" When Duan Mu Bai saw the two of them, he stepped forward and naturally ignored Fengjiu. His concerned gaze landed on Shangwan Wanrong. Fengjiu coughed lightly when she saw this, and she didn't wait for her mother to speak before she smiled and said, "Martial Uncle Duan, you really care about us. But there's no need to worry. Martial Uncle Shangwan and I are fine." Since her father wasn't here, she would chase away the wild bees and butterflies by her mother's side. Upon hearing Fengjiu's words, Duan Mu Bai glanced at him and said in a deep voice, "Why are you interrupting when the elders are talking? Go to the side and stay there." In his heart, he felt that this little handyman was too insensible. His unhappy gaze retracted from Fengjiu and landed on Shangwan Wanrong. I don't know why, but there was a beast tide in this mystic realm. Fortunately, it has already calmed down. Now that I see that you're fine, I'm relieved. "I've made senior brother worry," Shangwan Wanrong said, glancing at Fengjiu and smiling at him. Chapter 1456. Eldest Senior Brother, are you done with your work? Shangwan Wanrong looked at Duan Mu Bai and asked. "Yes, it's done. Because of the beast tide, many people have rushed to the periphery to gather. I saw that you weren't around, so I came over to take a look." As he spoke, he glanced at Fengjiu and said, "Since there's nothing else, then follow me to the periphery." "All right, we're going to the periphery as well," Shangwan Wanrong said and gestured to Fengjiu, and the two of them walked forward together. Duan Mu Bai, who was following behind, saw this and could not help but feel that it was strange. Why did Junior's sister treat this odd-job worker so differently? The intimacy in their actions and the change in their expressions. It seemed like something had happened between the two of them. When he thought of this, his expression became strange, and he suppressed the doubts in his heart as they walked out together. However, 2 days later, the time for the transportation was up. Before they could reach the periphery, a vortex appeared in midair and sucked them in one by one. As long as the alchemists were still alive in the mystic realm, they would all be transported out. As for those who were dead, they would be buried in this mystic realm forever. When Fengjiu, Shangwan Wanrong, and Duan Mubai were transported out, they appeared at the foot of Three Yang Peak. "I'm going to see Master. You guys go back first," she said to Fengjiu and Duan Mubai. Fengjiu was silent when he heard this. He did not have the right to go to the 9th peak, so he did not say anything and only looked at her. Duan Mubai paused for a moment when he heard this, then said, "I'm going to see Master too. I'll go with you." Shangwan Wanrong nodded when she saw this. "All right." Then, she looked at Fengjiu. "You go back and rest first." "All right," Fengjiu replied, and his eyes flashed as he watched the two of them turn around and leave. As they walked up the mountain, Duan Mubai could not help but ask, "Junior sister, this Fengjiu seems to be to your liking? I see that you seem to treat him more warmly than others." Shangwan Wanrong smiled when she heard this, and her eyes were filled with joy and gentleness. "That's right. This child is really obedient." Seeing the gentle smile on her face, his heart trembled slightly. After pausing for a moment, he changed the topic and asked, "That's right. You gave those 3 medicines to Shizun. It's best if you don't go see Shizun alone for the time being." Hearing this, the smile on Shangwan Wanrong's face faded. She tilted her head slightly to look at Duan Mubai and stopped to ask, "Eldest senior brother, do you know something? Are you really not going to tell me?" Duan Mubai sighed. "It's not that I don't want to tell you, but I don't know where to start, and I don't even know how to tell you." He shook his head and said, "I only hope that you will be more cautious when you return to the peak and pay more attention." "Okay, I got it," she replied and continued walking. Duan Mubai glanced at her and followed beside her, saying, "If you want to see Master in the future, just call me along." Shangwan Wanrong smiled and did not reply. Instead, she looked at the entrance of the 9th summit and asked with sparkling eyes, "Eldest senior brother, what do you think Master is doing right now? Will he be in the summit?" "Master often goes into seclusion to refine pills and rarely goes out. If he's not in the summit, where would he be?" He looked at her with slight surprise, feeling that her question was a bit strange. Chapter 1457. The Peak Master has ordered that aside from Shangwan Wanrong, no one else is allowed to enter without being summoned. As the 2 nascent soul cultivators spoke, they stopped Duan Mubai, who was about to step inside. Hearing this, Shangwan Wanrong, who was in front, stopped and looked back. Duan Mubai frowned. "What's the reason? If Junior Marshall's sister can go in, why can't I? You go in and report that I have something to see Master. We are only responsible for carrying out the Peak Master's orders. You can wait here, but you can't go in." As the 2 nascent soul cultivators spoke, they were expressionless and refused to let him go. Shangwan Wanrong smiled when she saw this. "Eldest senior brother, it's fine. I'll come out after I see Master. You can go back first." As she spoke, she nodded slightly to him before moving to walk into the room. The moment she turned around, the smile on her face gradually disappeared, and she looked thoughtful. Seeing this, Duan Mubai's face darkened. Facing the 2 nascent soul cultivators guarding him, he couldn't force his way in and could only wait outside. On the other side, when Shangwan Wanrong arrived outside the bamboo house, she couldn't help but stop. Just as she was hesitating, she heard her master's voice from inside. "Since you're here, why don't you come in?" Three Yangzi's old and low voice came from the bamboo house, pulling Shangwan Wanrong's thoughts back. She adjusted her mind, then pushed the door open and walked in. "Master." She looked at the figure sitting there and respectfully bowed. Then she took out the 3 best quality herbs from her space and said, "Master, This disciple has completed the task. The 3 herbs are all here. Master, please take a look. 3 Yangzi turned around and looked at her with a dignified expression on his aged face. He stroked his beard with one hand and checked the 3 elixirs on the table. The roots are intact and properly preserved. Very good. He nodded in satisfaction, and after seeing the 3 elixirs on the table, his stern face finally softened. His gaze paused on Shangguan Wanrong for a while before he asked, "You haven't broken through your skills yet? You shouldn't have stayed at the Golden Core stage for so long. Didn't you take the medicinal pills that Master gave you to help you improve your strength?" "I haven't had the time to eat since I entered the mystic realm." She lowered her eyes and said, "Then put aside all the matters at hand and increase your strength first. When you enter the nascent soul stage, I have something very important for you to do." He put the pill away and then took out another bottle of pills. "Take this. Take 1 pill every 10 days. It can increase your strength to the nascent soul stage in 3 months. Within 3 months, she was slightly startled. Isn't this advancement speed a little too fast? If that's the case, I'm afraid that my foundation will be unstable, and it will be difficult for me to advance in the future. There's no need for that. This is a medicinal pill that I've personally refined for you. It's only beneficial to your body. Don't worry." He waved his hand and said, "Also, you can't tell your senior martial brothers about this. Otherwise, they will say that I'm biased towards you. Remember my words. Within 3 months, you must become a nascent soul cultivator." Hearing this, her eyes flashed and she asked, "But what if I can't break through in 3 months and become a nascent soul cultivator?" Chapter 1458. You won't be able to enter within 3 months? 3 Yangzi looked at her and suddenly laughed. "You've been here for some time now. Have you heard of a place called the Wasteland of Extreme Evil?" He paused and laughed. "Perhaps you haven't heard of it, but it's all right. I can tell you that the Wasteland of Extreme Evil is just like its name. It's a place where evil people gather. They eat human flesh, drink human blood, and commit all kinds of evil deeds. Only powerful people can protect their lives there. I think that it's also the best place for people to train. I believe that under such harsh living conditions, a person's potential can be stimulated, and entering the nascent soul stage will be very easy. What do you think?" Hearing those words, Shangguan Wanrong could not help but shiver. She looked at the strange and dangerous expression on her master's face, who was clearly smiling, but the smile did not reach his eyes. That gaze and that smile gave her an extremely frightening and dangerous feeling. She could not help but take a step back and maintain some distance from him. "Understand. Don't worry, Master. I will advance to the nascent soul stage within 3 months. I will definitely not disappoint Master's expectations of me." She steadied her mind and bowed. "If Master doesn't have any other instructions, I'll take my leave first." "Go." He nodded in satisfaction and gestured for her to leave. Shangguan Wanrong walked out and closed the door behind her. She felt her heart tremble and a chill run up from the soles of her feet. Now, she was very sure that her master wanted her life. However, she didn't know why. Why did he want her life? What use did her life have to him? Why did he have to wait until she entered the nascent soul stage and became a nascent soul cultivator? She walked out of the 9th peak in a daze as she thought about it. She only regained her senses when she heard Duan Mubai's voice. "Junior sister, are you all right?" Duan Mubai walked up to her. He couldn't help but worry when he saw her dazed expression. "I'm fine. What could happen if I went to Master's place?" She looked up at him and shook her head with a smile. "Eldest senior brother, I'll take my leave first." With that, she walked past him and returned to her cave abode. Watching her leave, Duan Mubai wanted to call her back and ask her what Master had said to her after she went in. However, as he watched her walk away, he opened his mouth but couldn't say a word. Even if he suspected that his master would do something bad to her, nothing had happened. As a disciple, how could he ask such a question? Sighing softly, he shook his head and followed her down the mountain. On the other side, when Fengjiu returned to her cave abode, she saw Green Hair, who who had gained a lot of weight, pouncing on her. Seeing green hair, she was a little surprised. "So you're here. I was wondering why I didn't see you when I entered the secret realm." "So you can't get in?" She chuckled. Since she hadn't bathed yet, she directly sat down at the entrance of the cave. She hugged green hair in her arms and stroked its egg. Puzzled, she asked, "When are you planning to lay this egg?" "Normally, eggs can't be carried for so long, right?" "Kikik." Green hair raised its head and cackled, flapping its wings and saying something. Seeing this, Fengjiu's eyes turned. Should she take out a speech-opening pill and let green hair eat it? Chapter 1459. She stroked green hair's round body and touched the egg under its belly. She thought, my mother should be fine if she goes to 3 Yangzi's place in 3 Yangzi's. No matter what, 3 Yangzi wouldn't let himself be labeled as a person who murdered his disciple. Even if he wanted to make a move on my mother, he would probably do it in private. However, under such circumstances, her mother was only a gold core cultivator. She was not at ease dealing with the 3 Yangzi. If she could send her away first and go to Lung Shuang and the others, perhaps it would be easier for her to deal with the remaining matters. Moreover, only when her mother left this place and was safe would she be able to do what she wanted to do without worry. She sat there deep in thought. The green-furred cat in her arms was pressed down by her. It couldn't even straighten its head, so it could only lie quietly in her arms. After a long time, Fengjiu stood up. She let go of green hair and went into the cave. She planned to rest for a while and bathe in the evening when there was no one around. In this place, bathing was not very convenient for her. There was no bathroom in the cave. She could only bathe in the middle of the night when there was no one around. However, when it was about evening, she was still resting in the cave when she heard Luo Heng's voice from outside. "Fengjiu? Fengjiu?" Luo Heng shouted outside and asked worriedly, "Are you still alive?" Hearing this, she jumped out of bed. She put on her coat and walked out angrily. When she saw the person shouting outside, she said, "What do you mean I'm still alive? Could it be that the person you see now is not me, but a ghost?" He paused for a moment and waved his hand. No, that's not what I meant. I just wanted to see if you're still alive." Luo Heng then asked, "Didn't you encounter the beast tide at that time? You were in the depths. How could you not be injured at all?" Fengjiu nodded and said, "I encountered it. I was at the top of the mountain and saw thousands of beasts running out from below." "All right, where's Senior Brother Chun? Is he okay?" Hearing this, the smile on Luo Heng's face disappeared. "Senior Brother Chun? What happened to him?" Seeing his strange expression, although he tried his best to hide it, he was still caught by her. "What happened to him? Tell me," Fengjiu urged. Her heart sank as she thought to herself, could it be that Chun Dao is dead? If he encountered a beast tide, the death rate would be unusually low. Seeing that Fengjiu kept asking, Luo Heng sighed and told him in detail what had happened at that time. "After I brought him back, I asked the people in the peak to treat him. However, they only knew how to refine pills and could not fix his bones. There was even a doctor and an alchemist who said that Senior Brother Chun Dao might not be able to stand up again in this lifetime because his spine was injured. Moreover, they said that he had already missed the best time to treat him." Feng Jiu frowned. "Where's he now? I'll go see him. I just sent him back to the cave, but he's very agitated. He can't accept the fact that he'll never be able to stand up. He's smashing things in the cave and won't listen to me. I think it's better if you don't go, in case you get injured." Chapter 1460. Fengjiu's eyes flickered. He didn't say anything else as he walked towards Chun Dao's abode. Chun Dao had helped her a lot on Sanyang Peak. If he really couldn't stand up, then not to mention that he wouldn't be able to bear the consequences, even she wouldn't allow such a situation to occur. "Hey, Fengjiu, what are you going to do?" Luo Heng couldn't help but say when he saw her leave, "You don't have to go to Chun Dao's abode. He won't see anyone right now, so it's pointless for anyone to go." "How would I know if it's pointless if I don't take a look? What's the point of going there?" You don't know this, but the Grand Elder went to take a look after Chun Dao was in trouble. Chun Dao is related to the Grand Elder in some way. After seeing Chun Dao's condition, the Grand Elder only said one thing, and that was the greatest blow. Her footsteps paused when she heard this, and she asked, "What did he say?" Luo Heng stopped as well and said, after the Grand Elder asked a few doctors and alchemists to take a look at Chun Dao's condition, he found out that Chun Dao's spine was heavily injured and wouldn't be able to stand for the rest of his life. He said that he would notify the clansmen to take him back so that Chun Dao could retire to the Chun clan. He sighed when he spoke up to this point. Tell me, if Chun Dao is really sent back to the clan like this, then how would he retire? He's clearly going back to await death, but what can he do now? Even the Grand Elder has given up on him. Moreover, once news of this spread, some of the people who were on good terms with him distanced themselves from him. They didn't even look at him after returning from the secret realm. Thinking back to when he was at his peak, those people were all calling him Senior Brother Chun, begging him to give them pointers on the Tao of alchemy or to exchange pills. Now, those people are all avoiding him. I'm the only one who still has a conscience. Feng Jiu's expression was indifferent when he heard this, and he said, "There are many who add flowers to embroidery, but few who offer help in times of need. That's human nature." With that, he continued walking forward. "But you won't be of much use even if you go. You're just a lowly odd-job worker. You don't know how to refine pills, and you don't know how to use medicine. If you go, you'll only make him sad." Along the way, Luo Heng kept chattering like a little sparrow. Feng Jiu could not stand it anymore and glared at him. "Are you done? Haven't you had enough? It's your business if you don't want to go, but it's my business if I go. Why do you keep stopping me?" Luo Heng was taken aback by the scolding. He looked at Feng Jiu, who had stopped in his tracks and continued walking forward after shouting at him. He scratched his head in a daze. "This brat, he gave me a fright. Doesn't he know that he's just an errand boy? Why are you speaking so loudly? Are you trying to scare me to death?" In front of Chun Dao's cave, Feng Jiu stopped and looked at the cave that was protected by a boundary. She sighed softly in her heart. She still remembered that when they were going to enter the secret realm, he had given her a jade pendant that allowed her to freely enter and exit his cave. She did not expect that the jade pendant would come in handy like this in the end. Just as she was about to walk in, Luo Heng grabbed her arm. "Are you stupid? Don't you see the boundary? If he doesn't open it, we can't go in. After I sent him back, I came back a few times, but I could only shout from outside and follow the Grand Elder in a few times." Chapter 1461. Luo Heng was startled. He watched as Feng Jiu walked forward. When he passed by the boundary disappeared. Luo Heng couldn't help but follow closely behind him. "Why didn't you tell me earlier that you had this thing? You made me come here for nothing." He couldn't help but complain. However, when he entered the cave and felt the dead silence, he couldn't help but shut his noisy mouth. Feng Jiu looked at the things that were scattered all over the floor. In addition to some commonly used items, there were also some elixirs and the like. When she passed by the alchemy room, she saw that the shelves where the herbs were placed were also scattered all over the floor. She stopped and asked in a low voice, "He can't get up? Why are the things here so messy? Even the spiritual herbs are scattered all over the floor? Don't you know? Didn't he get injured in the secret realm? When he came back, he was conscious. After he was sent back, he started to struggle. He smashed everything within his reach. I reckon that after we left, he smashed everything and even the shelves in the alchemy room." As he spoke, he poked his head inside and said in a low voice, "Why is it so quiet? Could something have happened to him?" Hearing this, Feng Jiu quickly walked inside. When she arrived at his bedroom, she saw Chun Dao lying on the floor. His forehead was bleeding and he had fainted. Seeing this, Feng Jiu's heart sank. She quickly walked forward and said, "Quick, help him onto the bed." Oh. Luo Heng seemed to be frightened. He hurriedly responded and helped Feng Jiu carry Chun Dao onto the bed. He hurriedly ran out and shouted, "I'll get a doctor." Feng Jiu didn't even have time to say anything. Luo Heng opened the boundary formation of the cave and rushed outside. Seeing this, She could only check Chen Dao's body. She first checked his pulse and found that his internal injuries had not completely healed. Just as Luo Hong said, the most serious injury was his lumbar spine. She took out a pill from the space and stuffed it into his mouth. Then, she used her spiritual power to help him digest the pill and treat the wound on his forehead. After about an incense stick of time, he slowly woke up. "Senior brother Chun, it's me. Fengjiu, how are you feeling now?" She asked slowly. Seeing that his eyes were still, she couldn't help but say, "Don't worry, your lumbar spine is fine. As long as it's healed, you'll be fine." She was telling the truth. However, to Chen Dao, it sounded like Fengjiu was comforting him. Hence, he remained expressionless and muttered, "I'm a useless person. I'm useless. What's the point of living? Senior brother Chun, how can you give up on yourself? It's just 2 broken bones? What's the big deal? It's just that the broken bones will be fine once they are reconnected. It's not a big deal. Go. I know my own condition." He stared blankly at the ceiling of the cave and muttered in a daze, "I never thought that I, Chen Dao, would have a day like this. Living like this is worse than death." Seeing this, she had no choice but to continue. "Senior brother Chun, I don't have anything else, but I have an ointment passed down in my family to heal broken bones. Don't worry, your injuries will recover in 3 months." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.